Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, and welcome to the wilds of Italy, where we are about to release, in the realm of 4040 hungry V8s, all the way down through the tough and tricky Imola circuit. And I tell you what, we're joined by Dan Yeaman yet again. I love this place. Imola has been up there on my must-see tracks around the world since I started playing Formula One games way back as a wee little lad. And seeing V8 supercars around it fills me with joy.
Yeah, it should be another good one. It's been sort of, it feels like an extended tour of Imola for me personally. Done quite a few broadcasts now, it feels like, here at this circuit, both in the V8, but also not in the V8 as well, I suppose. But nevertheless, indeed, this should be a cracker. We heard from the drivers last week, Scott, that they were looking forward to this combination. We'll talk more about that in a second. But first of all, another chance to have a look at the circuit from the top down, as we'll zoom on in thanks to the Google Earth view to kick things off here.
Now that's it, northern part of Italy here, up in between Milan, Florence and Venice. Lovely part of the world if you ever want to go touristing and have a little vacay. This will certainly get you by. Right in the mountains there, and now home to a Formula One round as well. It's important to settle on in and enjoy the Italian countryside. It's a very beautiful part of the world, and all of the lovely wines and meals that you can get in this section of the world as well. There's going to be 19 corners here, not the same layout as they used to run around here way back when Formula One was here before they took their big hiatus. It's the same layout though as what they currently experience. In terms of things, 19 corners, couple chicanes, it's big ones, it's about fast and flowing. And it's also about turning the car in nice and cleanly and rebuilding that speed, Dan. It's all about drive off of the corner here.
Yeah, a lot of long straights. Of course, the main front straight there off Ravazza 2 all the way down the Tamburello chicane, but also getting the drive out of the Tosa hairpin as well, the drive out of Acqua Minerale and the Variante Alta chicanes, probably the four places where that is going to be critical most of all, given they're sort of our slower corner track, but of course getting through the chicanes at Tamburello right, given, and also Villeneuve too, jumping over the curbs there, making sure you get that right, and balance curb usage with getting drive traction. Also over the crest at Puritella there at turn 9, coming up on a momentary flat patch, and then settle the car in, getting it settled under brakes for Acqua Minerale as well, descending downhill into basically I think the lowest point on the circuit, to be precise there, whilst turning right a whole bunch. And then of course the third and final chicane complex at Variante Alta. A lot of curb that you want to use, but you have to be mindful not to get too greedy, otherwise you could pick up an off track or at the very least, well, that's the very least, possibly a slowdown, which will absolutely kill any momentum heading down into the Ravazza corners, which will basically mean a lost spot in the process.
And the starting fuel capacity will be 80 liters. We will use the entirety of the tank, and it is very, very close to getting a one stop. It is known for being a little bit of a narrow circuit in a lot of places, as George Russell and Valtteri Bottas found in that drying track. What was that, 2021, I think it was, on the run down to turn number 1, particularly when there's only one real dry groove on that run down in there as well. It's not easy, and Taliancic has actually just gone spinning through the first corner, and that is a driver of some repute, and if he's having problems, I know I would be having problems.
Very easy to go in hot, that is true. Well, looking at a two-stop race tonight, Scott, with that 80 litres of fuel to start off, good for around 19, 20 laps if you choose to lift and coast a little bit and save it, but if you go flat out from the get-go, you would technically fall a little bit short. Filling the tank all the way up to 111 litres will net you around 27.5 laps of range. So call it 27, and then if you choose to save, could make it 28. This, therefore, is what our pit windows on both ends of the race look like. You would come in as early as lap 8 and commit to the early stop strategy. That'll be the first chance to make it home, fill the car up. Well, fill the car up to make it to the second marker, which is lap 35, the earliest point at which you can fill it up and make it home to the end of the 62-lap race here tonight.
Just watching, I think, Chad Lewis in the pit lane, by the way, Dan, practicing his starts with that full tank, because that'll be relatively important. We're about 3 minutes away, ladies and gentlemen, from lights out. So that gives us 3 minutes to sit here and talk about our driving grid. Those numbers on your screen for the fuel, that will be critical tonight. It is a tough and tricky racetrack, this one. 300 kilometers around those curbs. There is going to be drama at some point. This is a track that lends itself to that. But lining up off of pole position here tonight, he unfortunately did not finish the race last week. He's had some trials and tribulations. He's run out of fuel as well, but he's going to be off of P number 1. It's Michael Taliancic. Off alongside of him, it's Darren Lobb. Scott Gamble will be back on the second row of the grid in P number 3, off alongside of Jeff Thomas. What a qualifying performance from him. He was only a tenth of a second off of our front couple of drivers right there and in the conversation. David Kirby puts on his best qualifying performance of the season as well. 5th place. That's a big one for him. Craig Friend. So there's 3 drivers in a row, all of a sudden lighting the timing charts alight during qualifying. Can they hang on to those spots in the race? Chad Lewis, another driver all the way up and deep there in P7, off alongside of Stuart Hall for the Nova Sim Sports entry. And then we'll throw it back to 9th and 10th. Matt van der Kraan. We saw him have a crack last week at potential podium and was robbed by Darren Lobbies off of P number 9. Daniel Hall will be off alongside of him off of the back row within inside the top 10. Dan, take us away for the next 10.
Will do indeed. Brendan Nitschke after second place last week at Barcelona will start tonight here at Imola in P11. John Latham to his outside in position at 12. Row number 7 is going to be shared by Chris Miller and Bruce Tannick there in the 666 and 123 machines respectively. Behind them, it'll be Greg Sharp and Stephen Kennedy out of 15th and 16th place to kick this race off here tonight. 17th and 18th will be shared by Travis Hunt and Christian Smart there. Hoping, well, those drivers, they'll be certainly looking to push forward with the 10th row in the top half of the field, rounded out by David Nash and Robbie Griffiths.
Yeah, we'll throw it back over to the next ones on the grid. Stephen Banks and Jason Fewens. Fewens probably a little bit deeper in the pack than he maybe would have liked. And we'll be looking for his eagle eyes because Chris Blanchard's immediately in behind him, as well as Andrew Hoffman. Blanchard's been involved in some chaos in a few rounds here this evening. Michael Stewart had a cracking race, begging for a podium last week out at Barcelona. He will be deep in the pack alongside of Scotty Van Loon. Jamie McKnight deep in the pack as well. Look for him to cut his way through the pack alongside of Michael Quain before we'll throw it back to Paul Warwick and Darren Crosby, which will be 29th and 30th. We'll move it back to 31st, Dean Flavell. Scott McCune, well, he's deep in the pack, so hopefully I can't commentators curse him early on in the piece this week. Hallel Cesar will be off the next position in behind him. Chris Dale will be off of that row, which will be 17th row on the grid. Brenton O'Brien and Ty Byrne, Peter Latham, Matty Parker, and then I believe it's going to be back to Peter van der Kraan and Damien Cairns, and all the way at the back is going to be Damien Cairns. Yeah, will be the last car on the grid, and there's a couple gaps in there as Simon Hedersheim from the rear end of the field. The lights are on. Taliancic has missed the start and will start from pit lane, so that is a huge drop in terms of things. That could mean that everything that we saw from him missing the race last week might be software related, might be hardware related. Gamble's going to slot himself into P number 2, but around the outside is looking for Jeff Thomas. He's got the inside at 2, but he'll be on the outside at 3. Then he'll be on the outside of the next chicane. Can he get the drive off? Nearly got there, but Gamble has a big old wiggle under power, and now look for Craig Friend to try and cut his way through. There's still 2 by 2 as they come down into the Villeneuve chicane, and finally it's going to be Jeff Thomas who gets through. Friend gets it all sorts of crossed up, nearly loses a couple of spots, and there's chaos in the background. One car that's managed to escort their way off to the side of the circuit, 3 wide as they head down into, I believe, Tamburello. The corner, the hairpin in the back end, the long lap, and cars in the grass. And is that Cairns trying to slice his way down through the middle, 3 wide, still looking for it, gets a knock on the exit for his luck. And I'll tell you what, Dan, it never fails to deliver on lap number 1.
A little bit exciting there, that's for sure. Unfortunately, Stewie Hall goes right. Chad Lewis, though, contact with Craig Friend there into the Acura Minerale complex, but very lucky that he looks like he's going to hang on to it for now and just lose a lot of spots still in the process, mind you, outside of top 10 pretty quickly there as everyone floods on by as he took quite some time to get that car gathered back up. But finally, as we approach the very Alta chicane for the first time here in the mid-pack, so we might just be settled, but there's radio reports all over the place. And Stewie Hall, oh, he's still in the grass there. And Simon Hedersheim is going past him. Darren Crosby's ended up the last car here to go look at Stewie's car, unfortunately for him, Scott. That left side is now completely, or heavily damaged, I should say, at the very least. Apart from that, though, I think we might have settled in a tiny bit.
So it's really odd that he's picked up that damage and ended up back where he is. So
happened all the way back at the exit of the Villeneuve chicane.
That's what I was going to say, is I think that's where the Villeneuve chicane incident actually kicked off from. So he was on the radio. There's a bunch of cars at the tail end of the field already diving to the pit lane to try and grab themselves some repairs. Taliancic did fill into the field, but he started from pit lane. That's him on screen now cutting through the pack. And I do have an update that Lewis called his incident in. Nitschke also called an incident in on the first lap as well. I have a feeling that may be related to the one that was at the Villeneuve chicane.
We will be, so we'll get to a couple of replays when we can. Is Greg Sharp and Christian Smart back and forth at the Tosa here on lap 2.
Tosa, that's the one.
Going to be Smart getting on by the end of it all here to take that place away from Greg. Here to Piratella on his second lap at the front of the field, though. What's happened? Darren Lobb has made a pretty healthy margin for himself here, 2.6 seconds ahead of Scott Gamble. As Taliancic just lost a spot to Paul Warwick as they come up towards Piratella, but Tally doesn't want to give that spot to Paul if he can hang on to it, or Patch. You can see there on the back of the 050 machine, side by side down into the Aqua Minerale complex, and inside here at the end might help Tally, but Patch there hangs on and actually forces him to the right side of the road, and he might just be able to take that spot away here as they climb up to the very untailed, but it's still side by side between the two. He's got Patch there, 050 finally getting that spot from him there.
Yeah, and I was really impressed by the driver's ability there, heading on down into the middle complex in the middle of the circuit. That is one groove. It is very, very difficult for drivers to get in there. It's a 2x2. Bruce Tennant, this will be a slow down penalty. 100% this will be a slow down.
Is that a blown engine? It's a blown engine, mechanical black flag, and he can't get to the pits. Oh no! That's Chris Blanchard who's just been fired into the wall.
I mean, I don't...
Pit entry is blocked.
That'll be a safety car, because if that's a blown engine and we've got a car stuck in the pit lane, Blanchard will at least get out of there. But if Tannek's got a blown engine, he's going to be stuck there.
He's going nowhere. Now it is simply waiting, and indeed, there we go. The message has been given. My word, just as I was saying, we'll take a chance to get some replays for you all when we can. And all of a sudden...
They say take photos, leave only footsteps. Well, we've got an opportunity to create some memories right there for Bruce Tanek. That'll be one that he won't be wanting to review.
Okay, so just see here, leaders are coming up. Okay, leaders are already up at... Jeez, well, tell me what's happening. They're already up at very untailed to here. So what we'll do is we'll stay with Darren Lobb for a sec. We'll see if he chooses to come to the pits. Now, if this was a normal racing situation, we're about 5 laps early. We're able to pit and be on within the window for the ideal 2-stop strategy, at least.
I would put money on you can make it from here.
I reckon this goes, yep.
Even close, yeah.
Because the other thing is, pit lane here is super good. We're talking about 30 seconds or more just to come down the lane versus staying out on track. So, whilst it is early, yeah, without a doubt, these guys are coming in as Warwick. Now this, I presume, he would have made contact with the stricken Tanek, which we'll pick this up. He's limping around with a blown motor trying to I presume part of it being is, just make sure he doesn't go a lap down, which he shouldn't now, because Travis Hunt's assumed the race lead. He's not chosen to come to the pits. In fact, it's a total of 5 cars opting not to pit here, whereas Darren Lobb...
But have a look at where they were as well. So Travis Hunt was outside the turn. I think he was around 20th when he opted not to come to the lane. Scott McCune was in the 30s. Quain says, Taliancic, 100% right call for him. Again, another car that was in the 30s. And if you're back there and in the 30s, the time gain that he has made by minimizing, because you've got to remember field spread, Dan, just getting checked up everywhere. The amount of time that he's actually gained here will cover off that pit stop, more than cover off that pit stop.
Yeah, I mean, this is only 2 laps at racing speed, plus a 3rd lap basically in safety car conditions, so he won't have, talking at most 10, 11 litres. So for someone like Tally, that's probably indeed worth the sacrifice. He can probably he'll still be able to race against drivers like Darren, and he'll have the advantage now of being.
There's a couple drivers who have picked themselves up speeding in pit lane penalties. I think Jason Fewens and Brenton O'Brien have both picked up speeding in pit lane penalties, because O'Brien's been in there a very, very long time, unless that was also a partial tow. No, he's back out now. So that could be a loo break. But Fewens strikes me that looks like that might be. It's long for some unknown reason.
Let's have a look here. Yeah, 42 seconds.
Oh, they won't.
Consistent
well, that's not speeding.
with an error on pit entry, or speeding before you hit the pit box. There's a couple of possibilities there, yeah. Now, I'm going to try and rewind and see if we can find incidents on, or try and get through a couple of incidents here at the start of this race, which included a lot of slow drives. I think the main one I want to try and find is Stuart Hall. That actually might be in amongst this entire pack of cars. So, without further ado, so this is all the way back at the start, so that's not quite the one we want. So apparently things got a little bit slow here at turn 1, and yeah, they got nose to tail parking lot stuff. Jump up the front to sure, this is what we kicked off, fortunately. Down here. Stuart just gets loose all by himself next to the Villeneuve chicane, and then checks up a whole bunch of people.
Well, that's okay.
Oh, was in behind, independent of that. Yeah, Warwick. The 050. So let me actually grab that here real quick. So I'll go back a little further in the field to Paul.
Yep.
Business. And then, ooh, Crosby on the inside there in the 66. Apologies, I'm not getting angles I want to be able. And then it just, I just saw that there out of shot, unfortunately. Back one more time with feeling, and different camera set. Try and get the right angle on all of this. So there you go. Yeah, Crosby's still there. Inch down.
No, watch this. Watch this. This is what I'm not happy about. Now everyone pops out the other side, but they shouldn't have to.
I mean,
that's ridiculous, Dan. That's ridiculous.
From that perspective, from what I see there, it's a case of, I mean, damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, more in the sense that he's on the racing line for one, and it's a risky, it's a tough spot to be. Crosby. Alright, we're going around the hill here. Actually, one of my ones was going straight to what happened with his tank. There he is, and I was getting to stop. There we go, apologies. Right, that was all lap 1. Fast forwarding to lap 2 now. We'll see here for Bruce Tannick.
One shift.
Oh, and indeed, as you call it there, it's a downshift wrong, and then this is awful. Gets out of the way of drivers. Chris Miller, Christian Smart, by they go. Then, he now wants to get to the pit lane. And unfortunately, we saw this happen live. This is...
You can't try, like, he's too deep in. Like, he's just wandering across the road. Like, that is going to be...
Unfortunately, which one of the overcars?
I think it's Matty Parker, because Matty Parker's already left the server. So his racing for the evening is done.
There's one final time here, grab before we go back to live pictures.
The worst part is, Dan, like, we'll go back to the Paul Warwick one. It wasn't called in because there was no actual incident that happened. Oh, there's nothing you can do. Absolutely nothing you can do without that one. But yeah, the Paul Warwick one wasn't called in, and I don't know if it will be looked at and will be reviewed because there was no actual incident to come about from it, which was lucky because he had a very, very easy ability to cause more mayhem and drama than what Bruce Tannick did.
It certainly could have. All right, while all that's happening, right on cue, time to get ready to go back racing. safety car had to come, or was already back in the pit lane, I should say. Something to show on the road. And indeed, Travis Hunt will go nice and early there through Revartsa 1 and or in between the Revarts, I should say. Back underway for the 7th round of racing here in the V8 Vets Championship, season number 16, and it's a nice gap. Travis Hunt has indeed pulled. There we go. Almost a second as he makes his run down towards Tamburello.
Yeah, so with the run down to Tamburello, single file this time will mean probably a little bit more sedentary, a little bit more sedate on the restart, but still, meanwhile, deeper in the field, Craig Friend is under pressure from Dan Hall, I believe it is. No, it's actually in behind those guys even further. It's Kirby, and I think it was Christian Smart back there. Yep. Well, Tally's got a slow down penalty.
Yeah, I think he's already cleared it by that fact, because by the time I went to have a look at it, the flag next to his name, yeah, immediately sacrifices any advantage he had of the cars that came down the pit lane. So certainly not ideal. Oh, it's Christian Smart running wide at Tosa. Oh, and around.
A great spot. He's just immediately flick spin it out of the way and try and rejoin safely. So he will try and pick this one back up and get back underway with his night, but it's gone from about a 10th place restart for Christian Smart down into the 30s. He's dumped positions by the bucket load, and now he'll have to spend the rest of the night trying to recover that one. He's going to have for company down there the 49er Stuart Hall at least, so another driver that started strong up at the front end of the field.
It's definitely been a bit of a horror show for quite a few drivers now. Holdouts in the field. So mind you, for Christian, he's on strategy with the leaders at least, but now just so far down the field. So buried here in this pack, which starts just ahead of him with the 65 of Peter Latham. Yeah, just in the teens. He said running in the teens could have been in a really great spot now. So much work to do. We've got time. Just the energy that has to go into this to now try and
tyres as well, Dan. Hot rear tyres, so we can't even crack on. And for those of you watching along at home, very difficult overtaking opportunities down here. It is basically turn 1 is the only relatively easy braking zone to get the job done. Everywhere else, you're probably fighting them on middle of the corner and corner exits. Not that easy to get the pass done down here. In the meantime, Lob has got Scott Gamble a lot closer, and for Scott Gamble's benefit, Jeff Thomas was not in the way. He did make that overtake about lap 1, lap 2 before we actually come under safety car before we went to pit lane. So he did clear. Yeah, Jeff Thomas out nice and early. So in behind him now, Halil Cesar though, he's going to be the cork in the bottle for these guys up at the front. In the meantime, how far back is Talianchi? It's not too far back, dealing with Hall and Van der Kraan at the moment, but in the meantime, Hunt is still trying to kick on and jump clear of this front pack. It looks like the cork in the bottle is going to be about where McQueen and Cesar are. They're a little bit further back from our race leaders.
Oh, geez, as I start cycling through the cameras desperately. Just having to make some fine-tuning tweaks to onboards here tonight. Stay here. There you go, look at that there. Darren Lobb is committed to doing one more stop only. He's going to start, be sure he's got the fuel to do it by rolling the car in the corners here. That was a nice, early and comfortable run down into the Revartsa 1. Now you can sort of see why here in the bottom right of screen, sorry, the interval, why Darren will be looking to press on here the next little bit. So, not a huge one. Another huge one. Now, actually, another thing to note is, as always with the V8 Vets, fixed setup racing here, but also the fact that the cars actually don't have a huge amount of overhead on the gear limiter tonight in 6th gear to make a clean pass with pure straight line via slipstream here tonight. So keep that in mind if you can, Scott, because drivers might actually struggle to be able to make really aggressive moves up the inside on the brakes and may have to settle for just getting errors out of the drivers, out of Revartsa 2 in particular.
By the way, the drivers that we were talking about earlier just went head-to-head, wheel-to-wheel, banged doors. So Stuart Hall and Christian Smart both just door smacked each other going through the Villeneuve chicane, and Smart came off the worst for wear of it. There was a lot of fighting in that battle pack deep down there from 31st back here, because Latham was getting harassed and harangued by Darren Crosby. It looks like Crosby's got through on him. He's starting to try and skip clear, and Stuart Hall wanted to try and... I tell you what, 050 just got a post-race point penalty. Remember when I said I'm not 100% sure if Paul Warwick would get a penalty because nothing was called in, he didn't hold his brakes? Copy that. Race control have heard us. They have issued a post-race points penalty, which I like to see because that's saying, hey, we missed nothing. Even if it wasn't called in, you're on watch.
Yeah, also, has come through as well as the drive-through penalty for Bruce Tank for his part in causing the safety car after his engine expired. Also hearing
Simon Hedeshire just got a points penalty. Yep.
Also, whilst was quickly tracking back to back battle Stuart Hall and such, missed a little pass. Scott Gamble here. Apologies, that's actually delayed. Oh, no, that's gone to completely the wrong room there. Sorry for that. Back live. Get used to a few things here as well. New updates to timing software and the like mean things seem to behave just a little bit differently. But crucially, at Very Unte Alta, see the 543 of Scott Gamble is now ahead of Darren Lobb in the 990. Able to get a nice move done there. So I think this is maybe a sign here, Scott, in the comms box. But Scotty Gamble out on track, not sitting around as much as Darren Lobb was willing to. As there you go up the inside of Hal Cesar and walks number 5 a little bit there, which gives him the breathing room to Darren Lobb in behind.
Lobb's going to clear Cesar down here on the run down to the final couple of corners as well. He'll get down the inside even with some fuel saving there is well and truly up the inside and carry that speed down and in. Meantime, Cesar's going to have to settle back in. So anyway, all right, a couple moves done on that most recent of laps. The next car we're going to keep our eyes on is Jeff Thomas. What does he do with this opportunity and the pressure he's going to have to start applying, or else he is going to come under threat from behind himself? It'll be Craig Friend and Tally Antich in the next couple of cars, and the Tally's dropped back just a little bit, settled in, may have well and truly been off the pace here tonight. Remember, he is recovering post-surgery, so it could be we're attempting high load, so 2. A lot of left, a lot of right, and a lot of quick changes of direction, so would not be a circuit that you would feel comfortable driving around it with one hand.
Yeah, I think now Tally is back to two-handed racing, but yeah, just in general, it's a long race. A tough track. It's also, intensive over the course of a single lap.
Oh! Scotty Van Loon's just gone around after the first chicane. Actually, there's 2 cars around as a part of that one. It's the car immediately behind him as well.
Just hearing...
It was Andrew Hoffman, I think. It was in turn 1.
See if we
Just...
Here it is. So side by side into Tempero, and oh dear, that's a bit of a pinch. From that angle, I'd have to say, not a lot Scotty can do there. We'll go back a little further. Yeah, so side by side, well established down into Tempero, I'd say, Scott.
No, there's a lot of space there. He comes off the edge of the track. It's just the nature of the track down there as well, because there's multiple kinks in the braking zone on the run down in there, and it's not exactly straight. You still got to aim yourself early on, and if he's just misjudged that slightly, I reckon they've probably both come in a little bit at each other there. That's probably just a straight up racing incident.
I would generally say so as well. Yeah. So that one is Scotty's a bit of a nightmare of a lap. Speaking of a bad one, Michael Quain having opted for the no-stop strategy has himself gone off down at Tamburello. This is a really long rejoin for him because he's all the way out in the gravel, and now trying to get this car back to a semblance of speed. What has happened there for the 57? Yeah, this is unfortunate. So all fine and well here for the initial part of the replay. Scott on the curbs, and then oh wow, it just goes really late as he's putting the power down, and then the tyres, something fierce. And then what we caught there on the live feed is he tried to then bring it back to the circle.
Yeah, so a long way out there. Unfortunately, it is tricky and low in the gears as well. So he gets a little bit of a rub and a hurry up there as well from the cousin behind him. Was that Kirby? I think it was Kirby.
It is David Kirby in behind him at the moment, yes. The 307. So here we've got about 5 odd cars, which is say, inched up together. That back to 13th with Greg Sharp and David Nash there in front. This train continuing on from there. Still the line, I should say, still fairly neatly formed up at the moment. We'll have to check out what I was actually checking at the front because Travis Hunt doing a solid job at the moment tonight, I have to say.
I'm not going to mention that car in P2. Let's not talk about him. I never mentioned him. Who the hell is that guy? Don't know who he is. But in the meantime, if I say the Scott that's in behind him, that might transfer the jinx. So that's what I'm hoping for. And then he's backed these 3 cars up a little bit, which means that Gamble's now going to look in that rearview mirror. And Lob is starting to look a little bit more racy. He may have well and truly pushed on and saved the fuel that he needed to as early as he possibly could so he could get the hammer back down. Because, again, talked about the issues with trying to get an overtake done here. It's not easy.
Indeed, won't be.
There's another car off in the meantime after the chicane as well, the first chicane.
Yeah, I'm hearing David Nash on the radio in the 911. He's down in 21st. That's not where he was when we last picked him up. So, indeed, trouble of some kind out on the circuit. See what's happened here for Nash. So, no, that's David Kirby I've picked up accidentally. That's not the right David. You just see. Oh, but he's going to be involved in the aftermath of what happened here. But this is actually David Nash. So in behind Greg Sharp, who goes in a little hot to Tamburello, and oh, Greg's on the curbs. Just tickles out, and then oh dear, Quain hits Nash, and oh, Chad Lewis clips him as well as he's just turning on. The car's still spinning basically at that point, just slowly. That's what's just been called on the radio there.
Yeah, so it was Kirby that I actually saw dropping like a rock through the field and down the end of things. And Gamble's still not got his move done as well. But although, to be fair, he also doesn't have to get the move done. If he wants to sit here and save some fuel, he's very, very close to the outright race lead as well as in the effective race lead. And there's not many punching through the field coming after him. Taliancic is now up to P6. Obviously, after the issues on the restart, dropping back, I think he was 9th on stage, so he's picked off a couple of cars there. But Jeff Thomas is now looking out of his windshield at him, and Tally will have to get out of the way eventually. Will not make it the full race distance, unless on the other side of the coin, Tally is saving. It would be a lot of fuel saving that you have to do, but you would say with that one safety car, it's nearly possible over the remainder of the race.
The biggest one for Tally is 40-ish litres shorter. 40-odd litres shorter on fuel compared to everyone else who did come in the pits. Yeah, because everyone else will have come in and filled up. And they had, and after about 2 full flat-out laps and a third lap where you're pushing there or thereabouts, it takes about 10 litres off of the car versus the starting fuel. Add on the 30 litres that the difference between the starting fuel and the fuel tank capacity. So you're looking at a 40-litre delta. So his car is lighter. It should be a little quicker through the corners. If it's, at this point, especially now, the tyres will probably equalise to all things considered. This point for Tally, though, is just that, he's
the benefit
behind Gamble, and now he's got clean air trying to cut through as well.
He's got through on Cesar, yeah, you're 100% right. And the other car that did get through on someone that lap as well was Scott Gamble. We actually saw it up at Variante Alta. So Gamble's up to P2. But the other thing I'm sort of thinking of is, hey, let's sit down and have a look at this by the numbers. I mean, I don't think Tally's saving just with the pace that he's running at the moment. I just don't see him saving enough. But in the meantime, Lob is not going to let me get through that point because he is going to lob it up the inside. Scott McCune and try and grab another spot. So pressing on now with the fuel, and he will still not be quite there and thereabouts. He's going to have to be deep in here at Paracella, down the inside. the podium and effectively in P2. And he'll see if he can get after this race lead now, because that's important for him as well. And the point I was trying to make was we only have 6 laps. If you eliminate the 2 safety car laps, he now only has to save somewhere in the realm of 6 laps worth of fuel to get on the run home. If you can save 6 laps worth of fuel over 60 laps, well, it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, they all came in on lap 3, so they're all looking at about, if it was flat out, yeah, 5 laps short. But yeah, as you said, these guys here all came into the safety car. They're all running to a number now to stretch the fuel out and take things nice and steady. Probably actually looking at a number somewhere around 3.8 litres a lap or even less. See how these go. Okay, so this Scott Gamble pushing on here. Catch up and move on Travis Hunt. Again, runs out of RPM to be able to do the move on straight line speed alone. So he's going to have to set Travis up some, I'd say not more finesse, but just need to get closer, force an error out of 32. Although he can certainly lunge it in under brakes, that's for sure. There through through the Villeneuve chicane. Apologies. So that will be one to watch out for here as he now tries to really crank on the pressure.
I reckon it's toasted down there. That's going to be his best bet to try and get that move done, or it's going to be at one of the chicanes, because it doesn't look like he's going to be able to get the move done on the run down into turn number 1. So could be another move at Variante Alta. And another car that's just picked themselves up a post-race points penalty as well is Scotty Van Loon for unsafe re-entry. Remember that incident we saw? It was the re-entry from that. So race controller not only just looking at, love this, absolutely love it. One incident comes in, well, they're looking at all aspects of that incident. Normally with a lot of sim racing, you'll go, it wasn't mentioned, we'll get on with it. But no, not here at the V8 Veterans. They go, right, you guys have to play nice at all stages of the race, because an unsafe re-entry, Dan, I don't know a driver on sim racing that hasn't witnessed an unsafe re-entry and the risk it creates for these drivers, and they're taking a stance, race control here tonight.
I mean, yeah, the biggest thing obviously is you've got to make sure that you get your moves done right, and then also make sure if there is an incident, you clean things up nicely indeed. As Amber looking on the run to Tamburello. I think on the revs before the pit blend line, but he's up the inside here. I think that'll mean Travis Hunt. Oh, he actually tries to get in underneath to get a good drive out of the corner, but actually holds himself up a little too high on the outside. New race leader.
I reckon Lob's going to have a go
in
here.
The hand of Scott Gamble, indeed. Darren Lob right there as a result of that hold up into turn the Tamburello complex. Travis middle of the road. Lob looks, but he's not there. Scott going to have to get back in line and try another time.
Yeah, well, they'll line him up now, and Hunt's going to wiggle it out at Tosa. The run to Piratella, and another car off the road. And I'm hearing comments from Peter Vanderkraan on the radio as well, and it looks like that one is the 57 machine. So he's going to have a little bit of an issue. And Peter Vanderkraan, so it was a different incident.
Yeah, very separate indeed. Candle's on the radio, but he's up here in 20. That's got a few things I want to try and code, but what we will do is we'll check back in with this for now, and then we'll get to trying to understand where things have happened. Is squirming on the brakes into Variante Alta as Darren Lob trying to really pressure Travis Hunt here in this second place machine. It's also just allowing Mike Talianis to come back into the battle. To see here the pressure that
He's not checking that mirror. That's what I'm loving about it. There was no fear. He's tipped his head into the corner. He was focusing on coming out. Now he checks the mirror. Now he has a look at things. He's laughing at something in chat, I think, or communicating with his teammate Jeff Thomas. And Jeff will be sitting back there saying, "You guys are coming back to me a little bit. You right there, mate? Here comes Lob. Here comes the Ford. Comes it to the inside as Travis Hunt. He forces Lob to brake early. Lob rolls off the brakes a little bit, tries to get the nose down there, and just about hangs onto it. Squeezes into the apex. Travis Hunt hangs on one more lap in the meantime. Gamble starts to stretch the legs. You guys want to squabble? Here's a second. I'm going to clear out as you do so.
This is exactly what Scott Gamble likes to see. Travis Hunt, who's off cycle with Gamble's closest competitor in this race, which is Darren Lob at this stage, but entitled to race, and looking to push on here best he can. Big thing really is the fact that Travis Hunt's probably only got about 5 more laps of fuel at most in the car. So 5 laps now. If Travis Hunt can hang on to the spot, and he has to fight to hang on to the spot, Scott Gamble is grinning. That might just be the thing that makes or breaks the race if then the pace stays steady between 543 and the 990 as Tally looking on Lob there for a second out of the Ackerman complex as again Lob is in very deep there and he's actually a little loose on the exit.
That's going to open the door up for Tally. Tally's now alongside, just about even. The spot will be going car to your right, car to your right. The run down here to the last couple of corners. He's going to try and pull it up. Lob is still there and on his outside. Lob had a lift because they both would have lost time if they both tried to continue the squabbling. And Darren Lob going backwards, but this is Tally on a low fuel load. Rear end of that car wiggling all over. This is the battle on for our ineffective race positions at this point in time. That's why Lob doesn't want to carry on with the squabbling. He might just follow Tally for these next 5 laps or so.
I think he will. He knows Tally's got the speed. It's just, yeah, how much of a hold-up is Travis Hunt at this point? And just even looking at things like now, in clean air, that Travis hasn't had to fight now for a couple of corners. Scott Gamble still pulled 2-3 tenths on him through Tamburello chicane and even down Vartza. As penalty coming in the background. And unfortunately for Greg Sharp, it's going to send him heading back, or heading to the lane. And a painful trundle through the pits, that is. So try through penalty in Sugar's way. Contact on lap 12, and that, I believe, would have been with the 57 of Michael Quain, perhaps. Yeah, given Greg Sharp is currently 14th and Quain was in the teens after his moment at Tamburello, I think that'll adds up there, unfortunately. So if I'm not getting it right, my apologies there, but let's not. Sharp certainly not going to be too happy with the state of things there.
Yep, and well, it's a drive-through penalty for his troubles, so you'll have to serve that one as well. In the meantime, have a look at Tally with the light fuel load. He wants to. This is for effective position between these two as well, so he definitely wants to get this move done because then the move is done out on the track, and he doesn't have to worry about getting it done at a later date. And then he can set his sights further forward, so he's going to get the run off of the final 2 corners as well. And Hunt pulls it all the way back to the right-hand side of the road. Now he will cover. So Talianchis is going to have to go the long way around. They stall out as both of them start to reach on towards the Liberty. He's there! He's there very late! And that was cheeky from Hunt. Now Hunt's out of position. Cops a whack. Unsettles the car. It's going to be Talianchis who lets him back in. And now it's going to be Darren Lawman goes around the outside of Talianchis as well. This is not settling itself down by any stretch of the imagination. Side by side through the shield of the Kane. Now it's the run down the Tosa. Is it going to be Lob? Is it going to be Taliancic? Last of the late breakers. Lob to the outside. He's going to try and get the drive off, but Taliancic on the inside gets that one done.
And they've got a lap car to worry about on the left side of the circuit, which I think might just be Michael Quain. Here's the 57. Unfortunately for him, he's a long way down now in 38th place as these guys try and sort things out, and it's dragging the 77 back into the equation after he got passed through by these guys earlier on in this run. As these guys just keep dropping time, and the fact that the gap from Gamble to Lob now nearly 5 seconds. In fact, it just crosses over 5 seconds as they climb up towards Veriante Alta here on the 19th lap of this race. Scott Gamble is supposed to be absolutely grinning at what he's seeing here because Lob stuck behind Taliantis, but for how long? He looks now for the inside of the Ravazzas as they work their way down the hill to end this lap. But no, he has to roll out early, settle back in, try and get the run here on the 21. As a result, compromises the entry because I think he pulled over to the inside there to try and set something up in the first place.
Yeah, well, now he's going to have to try and settle himself down. Hunt will pit. Hunt will pit. So that solves that question. In the meantime, I tell you what, the driver I'd want to be sitting in their shoes right now is Scott McCune. And oh no, I've done it. I've said his name. But I tell you what, set up the Bunnings snag party. It might be time to start selling some entry tickets. He might be making an absolute killing on the view that he's got tonight.
Yeah, he's been brought back into the equation. Now it's strictly between Taliantic and Oh, this might be a different equation. Oh, in the background, there's a car off. We've had more drive-through penalties coming in.
Jeff Thomas. It was Jeff Thomas. He's just dropped a position to Daniel Hall. And they're still going at it. Have a look at that next battle pack. Did you see them coming out of the the Villeneuve chicane? And now they're settling themselves down on it. Halil Cesar on the outside here. Another car that's out of sync here. But have a look at them squabbling over this one. It's going to be Jeff Thomas and I think Dan Hall are going to go side by side on the run down to Piratella. They'll try and pull these cars up here. Hall gets by. Then they all manage to slot in. Immediately in behind them is Miller. It's going to be turning around Jeff Thomas's rear tyres. They've turned into a smoker. And I tell you what, it might be time to procure some meats for that bad boy because that's how hot those tyres are.
A huge pack, which unfortunately we just didn't quite pick up really forming until this time.
Well, he's not happy. He's got a bump. He's really unhappy with that one. He's just called it into race control.
Breaks up the back half of this field of the pack. Halil Cesar, I think, exchanging, potentially directly involved. I'm going to give the spot back there, but these guys all pitted, so they've got at least another 12, 13 laps of fuel. Just about how long they can stretch this out, get themselves to about the critical lap is, the top of the screen, Davey Cairns and also David Kirby. Up drive-through penalties from race control as McCune also takes to the pit lane there on 77. So he will come in at the end of 20 laps. So he's only gotten an extra lap out of the tank thanks to the safety car cycle or just choosing to come down a tiny bit early in the process.
Well, Tally's kicking on, man.
That's the thing. I'd say Tally certainly knows what he needs to do in terms of saving fuel. Of the drivers here in front of the field who haven't pitted, only driver yet to also pit is Halil Cesar. Just about everyone else has now cycled through the pit lane. That will be important to note. I'll show it for you. Hasn't pitted yet. Still trying to make things up, and unfortunately this says here he's lost a spot, but technically he's gained positions in all of this.
Well, after a pit lane start, he's gained something like 37 of them or something.
That is the trick. Yeah. So I'm thinking here, maybe Tally's got another lap in this.
When's our pit lane window? That's...
If we don't get any more safety cars, lap 35 is where you need to make it to be able to fill it up and make it home without stopping again. He's in quick.
Oh, yeah.
Was that too quick? Not yet. And I think by this point
he's okay.
He's okay. Certainly close though.
Oh, I tell you what, listen to Darren Long. He's just clutched it from about the pit lane blend, where that starts right there, all the way down into the corner. He was mega out of the throttle there trying to save some fuel. So if Darren, I don't know, if that's the case, if that's how down he is on fuel, why was he squabbling?
This is the thing. He wanted to stay with Scott Gamble, I'm sure, and now caught up in a world of hurt in this situation. I would suggest, really, what this means is we're going to be looking at a case of Darren Lobb trying to push in a few spots to try and make up time, but now maybe having to also concede that he's overdriven on this fuel run, relatively speaking, and is going to have to settle in and take some patience, be patient with it. 5 seconds back. Only way he's making that up is on pace. He's got to make sure he hits that fuel number first.
Well, there's no point. So the problem is, right, speaking of Darren Lobb, he just ran off track coming out of the chicane. He got it all crossed up as he tried to gas it up. And was out the other side. In the meantime, we're going to have to sit back in and watch this battle pack because if you haven't got the popcorn ready, there's a chocolate Bavarian sitting in my fridge that I would absolutely love to eat alongside of all the action we've seen thus far tonight. And Jeff Thomas is obviously a little bit maligned with how his race has gone in this phase of it from a couple laps ago. But I tell you what, he's closing back in on that battle pack. It's not over yet for him. And that one's going to kick off again in the very, very near future, although the battle pack itself has been cleaned out a lot.
Yeah, it has. Just see here as they come across the line, he pulls back. A good 3/10, I should say, on Matt Vanderkraan at the rear of the train in that 180 Angry Birds racing machine. So you can keep this up. He'll be back in play in about 4 or so laps because you'll eventually pick up the toe once again. But now going to have to settle in and go get it, so to speak. Looking further on down the field to see if we can pick something up here, because we do have a couple of things happening, and it looks like the answer is Greg Sharp going to be coming down the lane for pit service. It's the third time now. It's a second stop for him tonight.
Yeah, one of those was definitely a drive-through penalty though for Greg Sharp.
Yes.
So.
All right. We have this happening here. It's a bit more. It's sort of our battle pack elsewhere on the road at the moment, and let's put 7 cars.
Yes, the battle graphic returns.
It's not quite reached its full form so far, but still, from Brenton O'Brien in 23rd down to Damien Cairns in 29th, they're all here nose to tail and looks to be fairly well organised. Also has one of our other drivers on Zoom tonight in amongst it, Jason Fewens in the 067. In fact, with him just a couple of cars ahead. Actually has a little bit of air around him at the moment. She might even do is grab the other board shot here.
I was going to say this is a really good opportunity, ladies and gents, to have a look at his driving style, because this is a ride around this track. Have a look at the curb hopping. Actually, kind of reminds me, if the Gold Coast had more space either side of the corners of the chicanes, it's very, very similar in terms of layout. Obviously, there's a little bit more rising and falling, a little bit more altitude change. The run down towards the final couple of corners, settle it in here, use a little bit of the curb on the inside, run it all the way out to the curbing on the other side, make sure you keep the car as straight as possible to get that foot down as far as possible. And it's the run all the way down to turn number 1, the longest stretch on the track, and it's still quite short, and it's filled with kinks all the way down on and in here, and out the windscreen. He's going to watch the guys ahead squabble for position, break it down, get it into the apex. He's missed the apex at turn 1 just slightly, misses the apex, that puts him wide at turn 2, dodges the turtles, picks up the turtle at turn number 3, runs it quite wide there, and you can tell that he is struggling in the meantime. Wipe with the brow. The chicane down here at turn number 4. Again, get it in as close. You can skip over a couple of those turtles if you line the car up nice and simply. Get the braking zone right. Trail brake all the way into the apex at Tosa. Pick the throttle up nice and early, but don't wiggle those rear tyres on too much. Have a think about that. A little bit of a breather here as they run up towards Piratella. Maintain your speed here, but you've got to get it into the apex because the corner gets away from you if you carry too much speed. Pick off an incident point on the outside there. Now you have the crest and the run down here through Aquamin difficult section of the track. Pull it up nice and cleanly, fade the braking, really cadence braking to carry those brakes all the way in there. Don't get in too hot. Pick up the apex on the inside, the apex on the outside. I love this place, Dan.
It certainly is one of the best circuits still preserved in time, even though I say preserved in time, very, it's not quite the case, I guess, because it has received its iterations and updates over the years, and in fact, really, the update in the early mid-2000s after V10 era of Formula 1 was racing here. San Marino Grand Prix. As Peter Vanderkraan's going to peel out of the pack and into the pit lane there. So 7 down to 6. It's also almost class 2 and then 3. And look, that's not quite the right person. As O'Brien's got Stewie Hall around the outside, make it inside, and oh dear, for the 49.
He is having a night at the office at Stewie Hall. He's not happy. My word. He's started inside the top 10. Started inside the top 10. Remember what I said about the braking zone being in the middle of a couple of kinks? It catches a few people out. It's not the first time we've seen that incident tonight. It's not the first time we've seen that incident before that. And we'll see that incident again with years to come. That's just the nature of the circuit here, Dan.
It is, yeah. I'm just going to pick it up on replay again. You see here, just O'Brien moving across to try and keep the braking straight for the car into Tamburello. Stewie Hall trying to be hung up on the outside on the white line. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work. Doesn't make the result.
Jason Fewen's doing his best drifting impression. Is anyone telling you trying to look after the temperature in the rear tyres, not add to it? He's going to check up David Cairns. He's going to try and slice and dice his way down and past him. Won't get there. And now they're running the final two corners down here once again. Still not quite there. So Fewens will only lose one spot out of all of that. Robert Crisdale up ahead has dived in the pit lane. So we're starting to see a few cars abandon that one-stop strategy to the end, and they've split the race into thirds here, Dan.
Yeah, it's an interesting call because it's such a long pit lane. If you can avoid doing stops on the green flag, it certainly is in your best interest, most likely, unless you've got a car that is so on the edge and loose that you're likely to throw it in the wall. That's really, I guess, the only reason I'd argue for making sure you're changing up that option to come into the pits. Because, yeah, it's going to make life really difficult from here on out in terms of still got to come down and take more fuel and put fresh tyres back on it once again at a later point. Going to have an answer for all that time you've lost by coming down the pit lane off sequence, at least based on the data we've got here so far, at least.
Have you got a track map graphic handy at all, Dan?
Unfortunately, that is one of the things we don't have with the software.
So what I can tell you then, because I've got my own up at this point on.
In saying I can see I do have a track map on my timing screen, but not one I can not one I can throw up for the audience. No.
Update on Stuart Hall, by the way, ladies and gents. That car is extremely unhappy, and that is his race over. So at the moment, he went back out, he's trying to get the car back around, and he's just basically about it. You can just hear there's no throttle in that car at all. I don't think it's tracking 100% straight either. So that will be his night over when he makes it back to pit lane. He's just trying to find safe gaps in the traffic, unfortunately.
He's also got an iRacing black flag. So either, well, what would likely that be in that case is an error on the way out of the pits.
No, I think that's an incident point penalty.
Yeah, that is true. It could certainly be that launch. It's only at 78. True, he's only at 17 incident points for the race. Which could certainly be enough at this point in time. Yeah. Caught up early on. Looks like unfortunately for 49.
Frustrating for him because it was a good qualifying effort from him as well. I thought there was a chance of good haul of points here tonight. So he's definitely feeling that. He was frustrated on the radio straight away, just to be involved in two separate incidents like he has been. So
yes. Oh, well. Yeah, speaking of championship points, one of the things we actually didn't get around to doing before was the good actually have a look at championship standings from coming out of it. I'll just take a scroll down and put this. And all of the two-stop strategy, and he also comes down the lane. This is how the standings are looking based on after last week's racing. Barcelona, plus also live standings in the session right now. I've also removed.
Do not mention the driver in 7th. Do not mention him. He doesn't exist.
Now, I also need to check if I. You might have noticed there that Mike Talanch's name just went absolutely flying up the order. That is indeed because Talanchich, his retirement from last week's race at Barcelona, dropped out of the top 10 completely in points without the drop round being factored in. But now on screen, the points are recalculated with the driver's worst result, not including the current race, being dropped from the standings total, which is how things will be once we get to the final race of the season, where drop round will be locked in from any of rounds 1 through 9. You'll be able to bring you live points as the race goes on. The only exception being is we won't be able to plug in the bonus points, the 5 bonus points that any driver can receive completing the race with 0 incident points. To be manually hold of that or check that information once the race concludes. That'll go and do your thing on the season finale. I'm just going to really worry about when we get there. So, switching back to no drop rounds. That's how things stand at the moment. The top 3 unchanged from how they were coming into this race. Scott Campbell off the out in front. Miller second, Van der Klaan having jumped up to 3rd after his good result last week at Barcelona.
He's also come to the pit lane as well. So what we've been seeing in the background, ladies and gents, is everyone's starting to swap around. I think the drivers that are still out there on track are now committed to that one-stop strategy after the safety car, and amongst those, Jamie McKnight and Michael Stewart, which both of those drivers were very, very deep in the pack from their grid positions. They've grabbed a bunch of spots, and if indeed they are pushing on with this fuel strafe strategy, is going to net gain them a ton of time.
I mean, yeah, certainly a good play there. That's a long dog doing 2 of those. Just the one, perhaps. There's a moment there. Yeah, one of the new features I can actually bring up here. With information about a driver. You can see here, Jamie Knight, hasn't come to the pit since lap 3. And say the same for Michael Stewart in behind him. But looking to work their way forward here and make up some solid places. Jamie, in the 2.5 seasons now of the V8 vets that we've covered here on SimSpeed TV, at least for the top split, that is, definitely someone who doesn't necessarily always qualify well, but as long as he can find a way through and bring home solid results, it's just it also sometimes looks like or feels like a roll of the dice, depending on how things play out for him.
I'm at the point now where I'm comfortable saying his name is now Jamie Mr. Overtake McKnight, because that's what it looks like each and every week.
And with Stephen Kennedy in the pit lane, that'll be temporarily plus 20 for the 027. As he winds on to start lap 30 of this race and join the leaders. So, anyone who can hang on to it and has got the fuel, we're 6 laps away from making it home without saving with 1 stop. Leaders, maybe they come in lap 33, 34. They have to do a little bit of saving to make it home as a result.
But that's realistically not a bad idea. I think it will be either 33 or 34, because that leaves you 2 laps to save in this final run, which is very, very doable. So fuel strategy continues to play itself up and down the field. Multiple drivers we're seeing in the pit lane. Basically, there's just a revolving door of drivers into and outside the pit lane. But for Michael Stewart, again, I can't impress upon you enough how important this is for him. He's done a great job here. Really, really impressed with this drive after what would be his, hands down, I'd say probably his worst qualifying performance of the season.
I think that would be a correct suggestion. Just cycling through some information here about his race so far, up 17 spots. Getting that 1 stop under the safety car on lap 3. Looking all right now. I'm just trying to get to that fuel number, and certainly last week was a rough night for him. Hopefully turn things around for the 919. You know, I think maybe even just give us a moment of pause, because this is a long race for us. We're just hitting the halfway mark of scheduled race distance. Why don't we ride on board with Michael Stewart for a lap here, Scott, and let him and his hypersonic racing Mustang do some more of the talking for us.
Yep.
We'll have to cut that lap there short, Scott, because right here at the halfway mark of the night, Who's had to come down the pit lane. Scott Gamble from the race lead. I reckon maybe a lap earlier than he would like. This is going to be a stretch for the driver who's ended up leading a good chunk of the second opening half of the race, I should say. Filling that tank all the way up here. Get ready to go racing again. Indeed, off the jacks there.
He's done 29 laps on that tank, I think. Which is, that's not good enough. He will not make it home from there.
28 lap stint. Which is, yeah, on the numbers for what I had prepared earlier. Which means that, yeah, hasn't saved a huge amount in the safety car and everything. Although, is this a play? Maybe get the stop done early. Bang in one or two fast laps.
Well, surely. So what I'd be doing from this point in time, Dan, is that actually I wouldn't fill the car up. If I'm not going to make it home, let's not fill the car up. Let's not sit static that whole time. Let's go out there and just run qualifying laps until the next pit stop. And I tell you what, Lob has only gone one lap further. Lob's in the lane now.
Indeed, there we go. My entire timing tower has an entire skits over the fact that he came down the lane there, decided that all gaps was zero. Indeed, as you point out.
Miller's gone on. Miller's in a great spot now. Thomas has gone on as well.
I think these two drivers there in a much happier spot. They're only 2 laps short of the flat-out window. Gamble is 4 laps short. Lob is 3 laps shy here. So
that's a lot of fuel. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Lob won't make it. I'm going to say both him and Gamble will both have to come again. It won't be for much. It'll be either splash. It depends. When does if Gamble knows that he's not making it from that end, short pit, get a set of tyres on. That also allows you to come back in the next time and grab tyres again.
This is the thing. They're not short stopping. They are practically filling the tank from what I can see. There's some estimated refuel numbers and looking at these pit stop times. So, does your strategy make more sense? To me, it probably does.
The only problem is, if we get a safety car, it's the worst strategy to be on.
Exactly. So I think realistically they've got to hedge their bets. A long race like this, refuel to be able to make it to the end if the safety car comes out, which is what it looks like they have indeed done.
How about the undercut, though, from Talyancic? Because he's set sail, he's in between the two of them.
Don't forget, so changing positions down 6. I'm going to change that over to when he last pitted to remind everyone. So that number to the right of his name is the lap he came in, lap 22. He's only given us 1 pit stop in this race. So don't forget that. It might say 2, and that's because he started from the pit lane. And that actually counts to the system as a stop. Speaking of pit stops, Miller and Thomas both come on in. They get 29 laps out of their tank. They're gonna
that's 30? That's 30, actually. But one of those was on the safety car.
Yeah. They'll have to save, but they've just demonstrated that they both have the mileage to do it. They are in the best position if we happen to stay... Whoa.
If this race goes green at the end, actually one of those two will end up winning the race, based upon my numbers. Nitschke's gone off? What?
Don't rule this out. Do not rule this out. Brendan Nitschke in the 066 after second place last week at Barcelona was a lap longer than everyone else.
And the other thing is, look at the margin that he's got. That is relative. That is absolutely relative. That will be the margin that he will pop back out with after everyone pits again. That is the amount of time. If he makes it to the end, that is the length of time that Gamble has got to gain.
Just critically for me, this is him, puts a 30-lap stint in the tank here, and then he'll only have to do... this at the start of the lap was 29. He only has to do a 28-lap run, which is, if he gets in here at the end of this lap, it is flat out to the end for the 066. And that is going to be invaluable, although it entirely bets on this race staying green like it has for the past, what, 28 laps?
Well, you said I'd love another podium before the season's out. How about a win? That'll spice things up.
For reference, Jeff Thomas has come out, and he's come out in P9. Chris Miller had a bit of a shocker on the pit lane transit. He's come out here behind Jeff Thomas in 12th, and in fact, I grabbed Thomas's stuff up on the screen. We'll compare pit stop times here for you. You see that it wasn't so much the time on the jacks, Scott, but the time into the pit lane and out, into the pit box and out of the pit box. And that exchange has happened.
The benefit though for Chris Miller is he's going to sit here and behind these guys. He's got draft buddies, so he's actually in a really, really good spot. Nitschke's in.
He is. I'm just looking for a camera that can show it. There it is. Fill the tank all the way up, and how about that? Darren Lobb is not hanging around. That tells me he knows he's short. Half a second though behind Dan Hall. Go like blazes here and latch on the back of Hall and then go full safe, so you're getting all the advantages of any straight line tow. That might be the play here, but
hang on. I just had Fuelens. Fuelens was on the radio and he was not happy about something. I'm not seeing any slow cars though.
He is moving. He's got Andrew Hoffman in behind, climbing up through the very undertail to use the 067 of Fuelens. As Nitschke is still just getting away now from the pit lane. Unfortunately for him, he is a long way down. Jeff, he's filled the tank completely up. But he is good. This is going to be actually a lot difficult for him. He'll actually bring it up. Jeff Thomas. 26-second margin with only one lap. So again, I'll bring up pit stop up on screen. One lap delta on the pit stop now. It's a small error from the numbers there. I think Jeff Thomas's pit box, the reason it says the same number, is Thomas's pit box is ahead of the timing line. So it says that he stopped in his box on start of lap 34, whereas Nitschke's box is towards the back of the lane, so he pitted on the end of lap 34. More activity on the pit lane. Aliancic cuts his second stint short. He's going to fill it up from here now, get onto the fresh tyres early.
Darren Lobb just gone around the outside of Dan Hall down into turn number 1 as well.
Wait, no.
So
No. This is not a pit stop from Aliancic. Indeed. Oh, no. iRacing black flag. Incident limit. Well, that has just done Aliancic in a world of pain. John Latham looking for a way past, but can't quite get there as they have to then negotiate the braking zone with Tamburello. But, well,
Nothing's happened to John Latham this season. He's just gone missing.
Strong qualifying results, has one lap pace in the car, does John. Race results, yeah, haven't quite been there. Well, up and down, to say the least. Speaking of which, Jason Fuelens looks to have an iRacing black flag to his name, and the 067 actually right on cue, he'll come down the lane.
There's been a lot of contact tonight for 300-kilometre race as well, Dan.
I mean, yeah, it's a track where you can go in aggressive. That also means that the risk is high. So yeah, there's that risk-reward ratio, and yeah, cars up on curbs, drivers racing each other aggressively, and just one little bit of contact goes wrong, and the car bounces the curb and can go forward. It's pretty easy that way. Here, Darren Lobb, 9 seconds off Scott Gamble. He only has one lap of fuel advantage, so he can't really afford to press on unless both drivers commit to a third stop. You can see that Gamble.
I would say they are. I don't think it's even close. I think they are.
I mean, yeah, it really does then mean that Jeff Thomas at 28 seconds back, I would honestly be putting him in contention to potentially be a race winner here tonight. In that case, if he can manage the fuel and doesn't drop.
Fuel
Oh,
is-
tally! My word, Tally answered off the exit. The Tamburello chicane. It's just going on one hell of a wild ride.
That was something. What is going on there?
He's just grabbed, well, saw it earlier, so a couple of guys actually go on board with him here and watch the steering work in action. Guys looking to put the actually. It's a very odd one because the steering looks rather tame.
Unless he's got that. Remember how we was talking about normally when he comes back from the operation, you had to turn the film's feedback down. It was just a lazy, it is a long race. It is late in the night. Is there a fatigue factor? And for him, it would be higher than for other people at the moment too.
Certainly could be. It's just about to go midnight in New Zealand. Still a whole day of the week to go. Tomorrow as it's 25 to go for our race leader, Scott Gamble. He's already on lap 38 of this race. Telling Ansich here about to start lap 38. It's a long things up for us.
Remember what Darren Lobb said last week as well for him, because he said, I've got to make my Friday as easy as physically possible. We're going to watch Tally and John Latham go toe-to-toe through Tamburello. Out the other side, and it was this moment last lap where he went for a wild lighter along the grass. They're going to bang doors. They're going to still hang out there on the run to the Gilles de Villeneuve chicane. Still in there and we'll tag him.
Oh dear, Latham round. Now in the sand, and has.
That says fatigue. Oh, I think that's fatigue for Tally.
Yeah. From that angle, not a pretty look, that's for sure. Go to the replay on that one here for you now, folks. Try and get a better angle of it if we can. Field's coming in, picks it up in time as we come into this front left, right rear.
He squeezed him. He absolutely squeezed, but it's not an easy one to get at that chicane either. But was he still alongside? And for my margin, I don't know. Yeah, sure, I don't know whether or not Tally's going to make that call. But at the same time, what's John doing squeezing him in that instance?
Telling Ansich roughly in front. And
He's turned in. He's turned in.
and from that angle, indeed, there's not a whole lot you can do about that when you're on the inside. So we'll leave that one in the hands of the stewards. Make their call.
How about Matt Vanderkran? He's had a very, very quiet race. He's up to 5th.
Yep, he's got that car patched up, and in fact, since you rather I don't look at the other car of this duo, we'll focus on Vanderkran with these two. Work their way around.
I think we can mention Scott McEwen. You know why? I've got a theory. It's round 7. He's in 7th in the championship, and he's 77. Unfortunately, I'm not going to mention the other number next to him, but I'm down for him finishing 7th.
So, 7s all round is what matters to you. Well, I'll keep that one on the books. Now, critical to note is, unfortunately, Scott McEwen does owe us another pit stop.
Yes, he definitely does. And I was just looking at pit stop times as well. Can you bring up the pit stop information for Dan Hall as well? Because remember what I was saying about half filling the car if you're definitely going to be doing that stop? Guess what Dan Hall's done for a little bit of track position. And I wonder whether or not there's a few more guys who might have done it, because Matt Vanderkran's stop on lap 28 was only 1 minute and 4 seconds end to end. So he's missing 5 seconds of the stop there somewhere.
Well, here's the first thing I'll tell you right there. I look at Dan Hall's last stop lap. 27, that immediately tells me he gave up and is committing to a 3-stop race.
But even on 27, that wouldn't be worth 13 seconds worth of fuel.
13 seconds of fuel, around 26 litres. Basically, I'd say what Dan's done there is he's basically taken as much fuel as he thinks he can, and he's going to only have about 5 seconds on top of tyres to finish the final stop off. So it was quite a long. In fact, really quickly, we're looking at over 2 stops of racing tonight, 1 minute and 13 seconds of fuel just sitting in your box. Unfortunately, I can't pull up the historical stop data for drivers. I only get the access to the last stop information. But by this metric, and I think the fact that he has come into this can't confirm what he has, came in with the safety car, so would have put in about 20-ish seconds. It's in 30 here. Or is this another 20 to make it home? We've knocked off that 3 or 4 seconds from a bit of fuel save in the safety car laps.
So there's a fair few different fuel strategies going on up and down the field as well. Like I said, Matt Vanderkrum was 5 seconds quicker. I want to have a look deeper and see if there were some more people that were actually quicker through the lane.
So there's pit stop lap next to everyone's gap / now. Let's put in the race. So there's everyone's last stop lap on the tower in the second column. There's everyone's last stop time. We'll be able to start seeing who are the drivers who have played a sneaky.
Chad Lewis, definitely.
Okay, let's do this. Let's just take away the interval for a little bit. Start looking at when people stopped and what time they were in for. Start playing the game again. Who owes us a stop? So, Chad Lewis owes a stop by virtue of having not taken his final stop of the race. In fact,
he'll be the first one.
He came in earlier than the fuel ran out. He's going long here. Which is interesting because he should only have about 3 or 4 laps to do so in that case. But we do that. Travis Hunt there, lap 19. Hasn't come in since the end of the green flag run for him. Still up in P4, doing a solid job with this Travis. But just too far ahead of Vanderkruijs, who's heading down towards the Imola complex. Travis just leaving it on the other side of that all. Who else? Yes, I said McHugh knows to stop. Hello, Cesar here. Stop this Chris Blanchard
I think it was an incident. It wasn't for a tow.
Yeah, he's still going. Fortunately, and scrapes to the side of his car. Also, requesting a tow. I meant actually bring up Chris because he's our final driver on the Zoom tonight. We've yet to check in with. Unfortunately, might not be the greatest of times to let him pipe up. As Travis Hunt will give us that second and final stop of his night. Unfortunately for him, they're both going to be green flag stops, it seems. So it's going to be painful.
I just want to be shorter. It shouldn't be too bad. And the other thing to consider as well is remember that he came early, and he's done exactly what I said about splitting the race into thirds. He's just about done that. So
it's still going to be a longish stop. As you see him now, he'll actually drop probably outside 20. Yep. He's get going now in a couple of seconds, but the field finishing off at 30 seconds, and comes a big old train of cars to pass him on by. Maybe comes out around Chris Blanchard coming in the pits now, damage repair. So sliding behind Dave Kirby, who's going past just there now, along with Peter Vanderkruijs, who's actually racing those two directly in front on the circuit.
So the big thing for Travis Hunt is he does not want to see that. He wants clear track position so he can push on with the fresh tyres. Peter's the kind of driver who will just, yeah, all right, I'm not really racing you, just come out of the pits. We'll probably just let him go on by. Particularly if he holds up Dave Kirby. And Dave Kirby's probably about the same. It depends on how quickly he comes ranging up on these guys. Remember, it's going to be on the high fuel, but we'll have the tyres to work with here. I want to have a look at that pit stop time. How long was he static for? And what was the end-to-end time? So we can sort of figure out a delta. So about 60 seconds on the transition through the lane. So that's going to be about somewhere in the realm of 50 seconds time loss for Travis Hunt.
Yeah, I'd say that was about the case. He came in from Fadachu. He was about 7 or 8 seconds ahead of Van der Kram. We can do a bit of hodgepodge math in that case. He's probably lost on about 58 seconds actually, which doesn't quite make sense in my head. Well, the numbers don't quite make sense, but he's gone from a couple of seconds ahead of Van der Kram to being 50 seconds behind. So make of that what you will, I guess.
And in behind the other Van der Kram.
Indeed. Although I get the feeling, based on the way he's closing up on fresh tyres, that will be momentary behind this, as indeed he's showing those. He's worked right down the front straight. So he's one of the drivers now, though, who can go flat out. But again, just like Brendan Nitschke, buried a long way in the pack. Nitschke, though, up to P20. It's just the fact that he is still, if anything, he's still he's actually down 30 seconds almost behind Jeff Thomas. The gap.
It's okay.
See, it's about steady. That gap hasn't really changed. So he might still, again, I think Thomas should be fine, even though he's currently got no drafting buddies.
So the critical thing actually is how far is between Travis Hunt and Brett Nitschke? So it was about, what, 13, 14 seconds between those guys? And Hunt was not that far behind the leaders. So at this stage, Nitschke is going to lead the race on corrected fuel strategy. I've still got him leading.
He's guaranteed to make it home, yes. I would still say, though, Jeff Thomas is in a better position just so much further up the track and only has at most a lap of fuel he needs to save. And that's more than doable with this long green, potentially this long green flag run. Safety car, and he's golden. Because even the leaders, with their 3 to 4 laps short,
they would take tyres on the safety car for sure, because the difference is going to be so massive on that restart.
That's the other thing. Safety car comes out. Field doesn't bunch because we don't have delta speeds that drivers have to observe. So everyone just goes around at pace and files on into the pit lane. Yeah, leaders come in, splash fuel while they're taking tyres and have no concerns. And then their rocket ships to the end, as you say. They fall back out because that's the thing. Jeff Thomas is 34 seconds behind leaders.
There's
a smoking engine.
No, don't tell me. Oh, it's Matt Van der Kram. I had a heart and mouth moment there because I thought that was Scott McCune. I thought I had sold him up the garden path again.
Good news
What's caused that?
I'm going to say, unfortunately, it's probably a case of another driver who's just overworked the car. I'll find out in a moment. I'm just going to track him back to the pit lane here. Thankfully, the car's still got a little bit of something left to give. Just got to get it across to the right side of the circuit and not have a moment that, indeed, he'll get down here. As long as he's allowed to sit to the right side of the circuit, here through advance and 2, and everyone just goes up his inside, we won't have a repeat of what happened at the start of the race. It was close for a moment, but we are going to see the lane return to pit lane on his own power and not produce controversy.
What's caused this thing? That's weird because I can't see any damage. Unless the cars are running really hot.
It could be a case of these drivers. It is easy to blow the engines. You see here, it just pops on the way down into the Acqua Minerale complex. I need to put that on the time. Just pop that camera box up. So one more time with feeling. He's accidentally downshifted too soon. That's the answer. I'll go to over the other shoulder here real quick. Watch the shift lights here. Oh, was that a hardware failure of some kind? One more time. Was it a fourth? Oh,
it didn't shift to fifth. Yeah, you're right.
It goes five, but then instantly back four. And then, as a result, the engine is gone at that point because he's immediately thrown it back over the hard cut. And unfortunately, by the looks of things, no fast repair in hand. Well, he didn't have a fast repair in hand because he used that to fix the car up. So unfortunately, that will be did not finish for the 180.
The engines, but there would be smoke, so his engine's fine. So I think he's grabbed the fast repair.
This car,
or he shut the car off.
He shut the car off. This car was wingless earlier on during the race, unfortunately. Now all repaired.
Shout out to Andrew Dyson over on the YouTube. Darren Robb, good to see a young bloke having a go around these parts.
Relatively young is certainly a term that can be applied still. Even if there are others here watching along, broadcasting this.
Is Darren Robb in this series to feel young again? Who knows? We'll have to ask him after the race.
I'll leave that question for you. You can in the case. Let's have a look here. This is now one of our battle packs on the road. And this could be a fight for second place, although of these drivers, I only think that the top two, just Chris Miller and Craig Friend have probably got the range to make it home. Though Craig Friend is a little marginal because he's one lap longer than Jeff Thomas, who I think is slightly marginal. Actually, I'll bring it up here rather than there. So there's when they all last pitted. Again, remember that Miller technically made it to the end of 33. Unless it's Craig Friend, maybe start this race
inside the top 10.
Right, so he might be one of the drivers who, yeah, in that case, actually hasn't gone anywhere into that there. Positions gained. Has now held his P6 there. That might just be ahead of the timing line here at Imola. So he would have come in at the end of 32, start of 33 perhaps. His stint length is 1 lap longer than Chris Miller's. No Miller's pit box is at the back of the pit lane.
There you go. Job done. Oh, Intel Energy's actually dropped down the server.
Yeah. He did.
Well, that's his championship run done.
It was already in doubt. But, yeah. I did notice he was starting to blink on our timing. I didn't want to bring attention to it in case it was momentary. And then lo and behold, we're talking here about these three on track, and I look over and he had almost gone, and then he's gone proper.
Don't tell me he said because I think there's a Windows update floating around at the moment, whether or not his computer's gone ahead and automatically updated.
That would be a particularly cruel twist of the technological knife there, if that was the case.
Well, I mean, if he's, you know how Windows wants to set it to your quiet hours. If his quiet hours are automatically 12:15 in New Zealand time,
that would add up, yes. Have to be a mystery for another time, I guess. So this could be drivers here that might challenge for podium spots in this race, depending if we stay going. Also, it's going to be because we do have this snake. It's forming up.
Okay, I thought you were talking about John Latham as the snake. You were talking about the group of cars. Okay, that changes things.
What we got here? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's John Latham here through to Stewart. So. 57 Michael Quain, unfortunately, is attached to this group, not running with them for position.
No, yeah, he's definitely a lap down.
Here, these drivers again, all last pitting, and all of them also stop, unfortunately, so they're going to drop down the order a bit more in that case. Costello is looking racy of this bunch. Latham here, I mean, should it be further up the road? Unfortunately, isn't. And how much of that you assign is his own making? You can make of it what you will, perhaps. As you're not gonna like me for doing this, but
you talk about the 77. Oh, come on, Scotty.
I had to do it because I saw it in my feed. I was like, what's he done here? The answer is, thankfully, it's fairly minor.
Is that on an outlap? Because he's around Peter Vanderkroon right there.
Yeah, that was on lap 47 him.
And he has dropped out of the top 10, so I think he has actually pit.
He has, yeah.
He pit on 45, yeah.
So only a couple of laps after he pit. I'll put his pit stop lap up there on the screen. Yep. Yes, end of 44, start of 45, down the lane.
Here they come, by the way. Helen Cesar and Peter Latham boat in, so I think that's as far as Cesar could have actually gone because he was in that mod that stayed out. Darren Crosby's also come to the lane.
There's there Peter Latham. Crosby's already heading back out of the pits. He's... yeah, no. Black over there. He's just, yep. Tyres and a bit more fuel. Away he goes. 3 stops to his name for the night. Slowing behind the race leader momentarily is Chris Blanchard. Might have had some kind of a moment not too long ago. 669, although he's soldiering on. And before I forget, there. Chris is his moment on the screen. Waiting for a chance to actually put it up. An up and down night for him.
Nearly 90 minutes into this race, by the way, Dan. Oh, this will, yeah.
Burn. There behind him. As a result, both drivers off in the weeds at Rivarza. Unfortunately, we'll do it. Back in P26 now. Although, is fuel to the finish. So it can just go on from here, although Damien Cairns company and for position 2 of the 88 machine. In a slightly better build health at the moment. It's awfully close to the right rear corner there on the entry to the Variante Alta, but we'll make it out the other side alive here. Although certainly looking
this is going to present an opportunity. Oh, it just barely gets on down the inside. And they come out the other side. Cairns is still there. Cairns will have a crack. Oh, no, not anymore, right?
Blanchard is going to... okay.
Might be a drive-through penalty.
It's not, according to what I can see. So, interesting call there. Or... something not quite right. Doesn't have the fuel in the car. Or... topping the car off and fueling tyres for some reason. So, okay. The way he will roll. My questions will remain curious.
This point in time.
Yeah. Okay.
Lob's, I've been sort of keeping half an eye, by the way, down over on that margin between Darren Lobb and Scott Campbell. Lobb was actually taking like about 0.3 seconds out of him a lap in the early phases of the stint, but so as the stint's gone on, it's sort of, no.
Well, there goes some more margin.
Okay, well that one's done and dusted.
It was always,
sorry, Darren.
It was always going to be a tough ask, that's for sure. Yeah.
That's Bruce Tannick running wide at Variante Alta.
He's in indeed.
And Halil Cesar has made his final stop of the night, so that's why he was inside the top 10 and no longer.
Now, number I want to bring back up on screen because I'm actually a little concerned for Jeff Thomas. That number there is his gap to the race lead. If Scott Gamble needs another stop, put in the 3-4 laps of fuel.
He's still got 10 seconds or so. Like, it's right
It's
on
marginal.
It's gonna be
That's the problem. It's marginal, and then Gamble comes out with plenty of fuel, fresh tyres. I'm kind of rooting for a Jeff Thomas win here because I'd like to see this happen. He's been close a couple of times across past 2 seasons. Well, this first half of this season, last season as well. The way he's starting to drop back at about half a second or more per lap. In fact, on that last lap, bring it up on screen to compare lap times.
Could be the fuel saving going on though, Dan. That could be it. Like, Jeff may be really, really tight on the fuel. And if you're going to be tight on the fuel, you need to get that sorted now.
Yeah, I'm just a little concerned that he's...
Could be traffic impacted as... No, it wouldn't be traffic impacted.
On that last lap, I don't think so. It just looks to me like it's a case of having to run to a fuel number for him is potentially hurting to the point where I think there's a possibility Scott Gamble makes that stop and still hang on to the race lead.
I'll say the opposite. Whether or not, because that's Simon Hedershot that's just come out of the pits just ahead of these guys as well. And Matt Vanderkram, by the way, has come back out of the pits and is back out on track, although he's running very, very slowly. Hedershot may have come out and surged past him in that last lap, so that actually could have treated him to be a little bit slower, potentially. But he's off the gas a long, long time at the moment, so he is fuel saving like anything from Jeff Thomas. So race win maybe not on the table. P2 still definitely is. He would comfortably have P2 at this point in time. And
yeah.
Lobbs just dumped a bunch more time. He was at 12 seconds. Now he's back to 20. Is he in the lane? He might be in the lane.
What?
No, he's not in the lane.
Yeah, there he is now.
There he is.
So he's going to make the undercut play. And see, we go, look at that roll into Ravatsas. So yeah, Jeff Thomas still has a fuel number to hit, make it home. So yeah, second place is his, but with every lap he's having to save this fuel, actually just giving it back to Scott Gamble to have margin, have a stop without too many dramas, to be able to get out in front.
Okay, so think about this, right? So is that Lob was about, what, 12 seconds back from Scott Gamble? Let's
20.
say if we're not counting him on the way into pit lane, because I reckon there's some trickery going on there. And Lob is about 10 seconds back from Jeff Thomas at the moment, so... I think Gamble's got it. I think he's got it. Just. And this will be a fight for Jeff Thomas now to hang on to P2.
Yeah. Well, the answer just back in the race server, apparently. And I can see he's reconnected to the server at least. Whether he's back out circulating. He is. So Luke's going to at least be on the board. The answer, unfortunately for him. Inglorious finish of 34th and 3 laps behind the leaders. Looks to be on the cards for him at this stage.
These is interesting. You're looking at the same spot as well. I was just flipped over to keep track of where Britton Nitschke sort of is in traffic at the moment, and obviously behind John Latham and Michael Stewart. So this is a great try from Stewart. Remember, Stewart's on the fringes of making this home as well, so he's probably aggressively saving. Nitschke's probably pushing on, as evidenced by the car getting all out of shape coming out of Aqua Minerale there.
Yeah, it was Aqua Minerale. Yeah, Michael Stewart, lap 32, comes down the pit lane. That is, it's basically, well, it's not as long as, it's as long as Jeff Thomas. So we'll put it in the Jeff Thomas window of fuel.
So whether or not Nitschke knows that he's got to get this one done or not is actually a question that needs to be asked. John Latham has that extra lap of fuel to save. So I would say put a line through Latham, although it will be a splash for Latham. It will literally be probably a lap of fuel for Latham to get home.
Darren Lobb has gotten past Craig Friend. And meanwhile, into position 4. DPR driver.
So that car that just went over the hill was Chris Miller ahead of him, and the car, we did see it in the shot, was also down the bottom end there, was, no, sorry, there's 2 lap cars. So Jeff Thomas not in the picture at the moment for Darren Lobb, and Lobb will be aware that he's got to press on for this one. He'll know.
All right, here's the response from Scott Gamble. Bringing into the pit lane. Into that number 2 grid box. This is the game I was hoping, but here's Jeff, unfortunately, all the way up, but exiting very Alta. Scott Gamble off and away with just a little bit extra fuel to cover. And yeah, it's going to be certainly close indeed. 11 seconds in the lane. Yeah, the delta here is about 32 seconds plus stop time, but even that. Well, yeah, as I said, ends up coming out 10 seconds clear. Or thereabouts. The margin's about 40-something. So, yeah, actually the transit delta, they're not as high as I thought. It was total 69. 10 seconds of self-information. So, unfortunate that. The numbers are a little bit off in that case and the expectations we had. But, it's 8 to go. It's 8 to go off the line. Thomas should be able to hang on to this. He's got 6.5, nearly 8 seconds, nearly 7 seconds.
Well, he just lost 2. He dropped 2 seconds on that most recent lap to Darren Lobb. So it's not done. It is not done by any stretch of the imagination. It's going to be Darren Lobb squabbling for places on the last lap again.
The question is Jeff saving a lot of fuel now, so that he has at least the fuel to be able to go on the attack? Because
there was some traffic on that lap actually, so it could be traffic impacted as well. Don't take that number as gospel. This lap we will have a clean run.
It's just all down to whether he's still saving fuel. It's definitely still conservative on the way down into the Revartzes.
Remember, he's on older rubber as well. It was Lobb starting to really press on. He did a 41.956 on the last lap, but I have a feeling that may have actually been instantly pointed out. No, Taliancic actually went quick. He did a 41.911, so Taliancic actually nicked fastest lap of the race. Oh my word, Bruce Tannick, pit lane entry, scare of the season.
Well, no, okay.
He was sideways on the way in.
Because you said it, I need to go see it myself. Oh, it's a bit more than sideways, unfortunately. He actually found the barrier in the process. Slightly inglorious pit entry, as it were. We still have this for now 6th place, with up here on the screen, 4 cars in. It's Nietzsche outside of Latham. Tamburello, that's been a place where things have gone wrong before. Christian Smart's arrived on the scene.
Michael Stewart's actually dropped back behind both of those cars, so Nietzsche did get that move done, and now he's going to stop. But Nietzsche doesn't need to press on for this one. Latham will get out of the way here at some point. Smart out the rear view may not. Smart is actually a threat to him. So this could theoretically be Christian Smart pressing on now, as if he's saved enough fuel. He's right on that limit, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be on who has saved enough fuel. And I'm not hearing any saving out of him.
We'll go on board with the 999 here at Piratella. Trying off the tyres there. Early into 4th, way out of the left-hander. Down the hill. Insult to injury. Scott Gamble will go and put a fastest lap on the board with 6 to go.
And he only gets that one by 0.004 of a second, by the way.
Every bit counts. He'll get the points for the fastest lap in the process. See here, it's more even for now amongst these 3 here. Stewart's there, still. Make it a 4-car group, unfortunately behind them. David Nash is riding with the train, but not for position. Actually Travis Hunt and Craig Friend, who are both next in line. And, Travis holding on to the final spot in the top 10. So,
he took a second out of them on that last lap, so that's the fresh rubber. So all of these guys are really, really old tyres now, and here comes Smart. He's going to start crawling all over the front end of these guys, but I think this is the battle pack behind. This is Travis Hunt trying to hang on to his spot with Craig Friend. Friend is going to get it out on the inside as they head into the Tamburello chicane. Job done, but now it's going to be squaring up from Travis Hunt. Gets the thing up sideways and relinquishes the position. But where is Friend in terms of margins? Friend has just done his stop, so he's on fresh rubber. That's why he's cracking on. And look at Nitschke. Oh, a shame. Here comes the opportunity for Christian Smart down the inside of Tosa. They'll go toe-to-toe. Smart now's the one that gets it out of shape. Nitschke again. Rear tyres are in trouble as we send it to the end of the race here, and these three cars, we've got them corrected on fuel strategy, so we think this is a battle for out and out position, ladies and gents. John Latham's going to try and nick clear from these guys. He still has a pit stop to do by our margins, but the rest of these guys are done. They've done their final service in the lane. Who's got the fuel? More importantly, it looks like who's got the rubber.
It's 100% coming down to the tyres now. One thing we can actually tell you, we have new for you here. Oh, I'll do that down there. We do now have the ability to show weather. Was the case until I decided not to play ball. Literally broke on me as I went to put it up.
Yeah, I was sitting here there. I can confirm, ladies and gents, Dan got very excited by Dan loves his software and loves tinkering around with the visuals that you guys get to see at home, and he was like a kid in a candy store tonight when I jumped on. Look, Scott, look, I've got these. I've got new widgets. We can do things with these. And not playing ball.
Literally, it popped up. I put it away. Decided, no, you can't have the cake and eat it too. I'm now most disappointed because I was looking forward to that. In all of this, Craig Friend has arrived on the back of the train.
With fresh rubber.
The tyres do be helping him. Just a little bit, yes. Although, he's got to hang on to it.
Just a bit. Will pull the car up at Tosa? Yes, he will hang on to the car. That is a rescue effort that should be going out into the Coast Guard manuals, I think, with that one. He has just about pulled that one out of the sea of grass, that is.
Oh, he was certainly hustling, and I think he might have just burned off the better part of the tyre advantage he had.
He's still got time, though. He's still got time.
He has time. He just now has a lap car that he also has to negotiate, whilst also got the pack. Yeah. Work their way up into Verona Delta once more. They're all using so aggressively. Yeah, start with Christian Smart. Tomorrow it looks like Michael Stewart's the one who's best placed, maybe.
He's looking, thought about it at Ravazza, left it in, I think, what, 4th or 5th gear there across the hill, didn't upshift one further, and then started downshifting into the braking zone as well. So, drive off of the corners, John Latham got a really, really good exit. Can he make it home? Surely he's on dregs. What, one more lap, 2 more laps at most? I've still not got him making the end of this race because he's leading this pack and has been for a long, long period of time. And the battle graphic returns to the bottom right-hand side of your screen. This is the battle from 6 all the way outside of the top 10. So top 10 results are included in this one, ladies and gents. Has Nitschke cooled those tyres off? He can't hang on to the rear of that thing. He's struggling. He's lifting everywhere. Doesn't want to settle. It doesn't want to be compliant. He's having to sacrifice so much speed.
Smart's back on the attack.
Here's Travis Hunt too.
Indeed.
On fresher tyres, not freshest.
Yep. Able to regather his pace, but once again, Craig Friend, best tyres of the bunch still. He's on an absolute tear.
Dan, I tell you what, Darren Lobb is down to 3 seconds behind Jeff Thomas. Under 3 seconds. So that one's still to play itself out. It's 300 kilometres the race length here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. But I tell you what, there was a big gap in the middle for a little bit of a podcast, and back on with the racing action.
It's coming to the boil as this race begins to conclude.
Don't make food references. You know the Vindaloo's right around the corner.
It's not looking good for Jeff Thomas. And you look at those 2 laps that him and Darren Lobb just put down on the board. Gives you the feeling of, question is he still having to save? He's still having to save fuel, so that maybe with 2 to go here, he can finally let loose. But again, the tyres, he's been on this set of rubber for now 26 laps. This is going to be his 27th on this set. He's got to take it 29 to finish the race. I'll actually bring up again pit stop lap instead of positions gained or lost.
Go back to the other group here, Dan. Go back to the other group, because at this stage, I think Stewart he thought about it. He thought about having a crack, and I think Travis Hunt's joined the back end of this party, and Friend is back here. So Friend is brought into this one, and Stephen Kennedy's now starting to arrive on scene as well. So I think Latham's backing these guys up. Latham's fuel saving to try and get home. So this now extends a little bit, and with 3 laps left in the tank, who will have the fuel left in that tank?
So look at it here. Who's safe? Nitschke we know is good. I think is good. Hunt, Friend, Kennedy, they're all good. Christian Smart, maybe a little tight. Michael Stewart, maybe a little bit tight. John Latham, definitely tight on fuel.
Well, yeah, I mean, out of everyone, he's got the most to save to make it work. Man, Nitschke. I just get the feeling Nitschke's done those tires, and Friend's running again. The last name is Friend. It doesn't mean that he's made Friend with that set of tires.
Unfortunately, that will now be surely that's now 2 big moments. The entry to Tosa, the exit of Aku Minerale. The tyres have to be honest.
Bruce
Tanek has a moment there. His Friend regathers his momentum. Nitschke's dropping.
Yeah, Nitschke is dropping. Nitschke's dropped 2 spots. So Stewart and Hunt have both got by him. I wonder whether or not he's had another moment on those rear tyres.
Latham is done.
Latham has now come out of this pack, and he's into the pit lane. So what was looking like it was going to be 11th for Kirby at the start of that last lap, no, it is indeed still 11th. Stephen Kennedy moves his way in, and Kennedy's crawling all over the rear bumper of Nitschke. He's got to get by this lap if he wants a crack at potentially 6th spot as Stephen Kennedy. Travis Hunt now is up into 8th place, so it is all still to play for. And have a look at Hunt start to go down the road after these guys as well. He's starting to get really close to Michael Stewart. And we still don't know if any of these guys are going to make the end of the race. They could peel off to the lane.
They certainly could. Where's it happened? Something's happened to Darren.
It's going to be very to alter. What, the Lobb?
Yep.
Indeed, Lobb has dropped.
Just try to find Chris Miller's name. Where did it happen? What it?
Through the chicane, doesn't pull it up. And doesn't hang on to it either. Well, at least the slow down course cut penalty was self-clearing.
May have just willed something into fruition for Jeff Thomas, because that has just saved his bacon, because he was only on the other side of the shot here as Scott Gamble has taken the white flag up at the front of the field. This bunch of guys still
Balloon's going to pit.
got to sort themselves out.
They've got to commit. They're just going to commit.
Give it the whirl.
Smart did not pit. Michael Stewart did not pit. Travis Hunt, when you didn't need to pit, and Brett Nitschke, who were confident out of all of them, was the only driver that was definitely going to make the end. So they've all committed to this last lap down. And Travis Hunt has started to fall back a little bit. He will close a little in the braking zone now onto Michael Stewart, but he's running out of corners. That was the big opportunity. Where's he going to look for it now? Stephen Kennedy's looking at the rear bumper of Brett Nitschke and going, come on, will something into action, why don't you?
He's unfortunately lost half a second, has Nitschke on Hunt. This is going to certainly come down to now basically 3 for 6th, and then 9th and 10th maybe here with David Kirby catching up too, as Travis Hunt starts applying a blowtorch to the rear bumper of Michael Stewart, who's still applying pressure to Christian Smart as well.
And Christian Smart big error on the run out of Toaster that time. So that backed up Michael Stewart just a little bit. He's right there now with Travis Hunt. He sniffs. He looks to the right. He's going to flick it back to the left. He's going to try everything to try and make this happen. But now it's the braking zone. The run to Variante Alto. It's going to be the win for Scott Gamble, but that's not where we're looking at this point in time. It's still not done for Travis Hunt. He lights the rear up as they run down to the chicane for the final time tonight. It's been 62 trips. It's been 300 kilometers. It's been just about every single drop of fuel they can squeeze out of these tanks, and now is Smart in danger. He looks vulnerable. He looks like he might be in trouble as they come down to the Ravazza for the final time. Hunt from a mile and a half back is going to try and get there. He won't. He's going to have to settle. Now it's who's going to coffin Spotter. Has everyone got the fuel they need to get to the line? Has somebody miscalculated by 100 meters? No one does. Smart will get home from Michael Stewart just.
Yeah, completely unfortunately missed Scott Gamble taking the checker. The same for Jeff Thomas. This was certainly where we wanted to should have needed to keep our eyes on, it seems, as further on back, the drivers will make their way across the line. Greg Sharp, Robert Crisdale, a couple of spots here at the back of the top 20. They work their way towards the line. Robert Crisdale ahead of Sharp there. Says it's going to finish up here. It looks like ahead of Damien Cairns. And that will just about do it. There's a list of drivers to finish a lap and more down tonight is somewhat substantive, but come across the line, and that will just about do it here for our results from this 300-kilometer race.
And I can tell you, Jeff Thomas did not have enough fuel for another lap.
No surprises
He is running out up the hill for the final time.
No surprises there at all. Well, we kind of hoped maybe there'd be something there that could play out for Jeff Thomas, but he'll have to take second place in behind Scott Gamble there. The 5.43 takes win number 4 of the season here in season number 16. Chris Miller rounds out the podium after a mistake from Darren Lobb trying to catch up to Jeff there in the closing couple of laps. Means the 990 will have to settle for 4th place. Dan Hall in behind and a almost lonely looking 5th place there for him. But a solid night for the 462 to stay out of trouble despite the relative lack of mention. Christian Smart brings that 999 home in P6 to lead. Michael Stewart and Travis Hunt both there 7th and 8th will be where they finish up, and they stay clear of Brendan Nietzsche, who in turn leads home Stephen Kennedy to round out our top 10 here tonight, Scott.
My word, that one took us out of it in the last couple of laps. It was last couple of laps. Running out of words there at the end. Dave Kirby will be the unlucky driver to miss out on the 10 here tonight. Scott McKeown won't get another top 10. Indeed, it won't be a 7th place for him. The 7s will not line up here in round number 7. Jamie McKnight, Steve Banks, Craig Friend was on a surge late until he cooked those tyres. Chad Lewis had moments there during the race where he could have looked a little bit better than that. He'll come home 16th. Robbie Griffith, Javon Crosby was a reasonable drive from deep in there. Robert Crisdale and Greg Sharp after serving a penalty. A 20th place, he will not be too upset with, given how that one started. Over the page down for 21st to 30th.
Indeed, only 5 cars making it home on the lead lap. With Dean Favell there, 21st place for him tonight, ahead of Halal Cesar. Damien Cairns, recovery after an early penalty for him as well. Ty Byrne and John Latham just falling shy on the fuel, having to therefore come back down the lane as a result. But still finishing on the lead lap for his troubles. Would have beat home his dad, Peter Latham there, who unfortunately being our first car a lap down there in the 65 machine. Peter Van der Kraan in behind him in 27th place. And still fairly strung out as well here with Brendan O'Brien for 28th. Simon Hedershy for 29th. And it was Scotty Van Loon who would come home 30th. And that almost ends our cars a lap down, but there are a couple more here in the form of Chris Blanchard, Jason Fewens, and David Nash. And, well, they all soldiered on, Scott. Unfortunately for Mike Taliancic, drop out of some fashion means he struggles bad out on track and actually lost another couple of laps whilst we weren't able to keep eyes on him. And then we get into our retirements with Bruce Tannock, Michael Quain, Matt van der Kraan, Andrew Hoffman, Stewie Hall, and Paul Warwick to almost round out your field. Final driver who took to the start here, didn't finish, was unfortunately Matty Parker, the opening safety car, or the only safety car, I should say, of the night, unfortunately claiming him as a victim.
Yeah, and Taliancic was watching that story as well. He did actually elect to jump into bed a little bit earlier, get some extra sleep. But in the meantime, we're going to have 3 drivers here to talk with. And do you want to start for the top end of town, Dan? I think you do, with Scotty Gamble, don't you?
Oh, I always queue up the race winner first and hope that's what we're going to go with. So, sounds about right, I think, to have a chat with Scott once again. And for a moment, Scott, tonight we thought maybe Jeff Thomas could potentially have you with a 2-stop strategy versus your 3-stop, but as it came closer to the point where we were thinking you might need to come into the pits, you were able to actually pull a pretty comfy margin in the end to take your 4th win of the season.
Yeah, how you going, Dan? Yeah, I did. I was looking at it, wondering when I was going to come in to do that last stop, and I could see someone going around there, and I'm like, hey, they might be 2-stopping this and fuel saving. So where I was going to come out was right on them, so I had to wait a few extra laps before I came in and got the pit stop so we could just get in front a little bit. And as it turned out, it worked out.
It certainly did. I mean, for you tonight, it looks like, you're in early safety car there, sort of throwing the prepared strategy that we sort of do for ourselves here in the comms box, completely askew as most of you guys came down the pits, which obviously at Imola, getting a pit stop under safety car is really critical if you're up the front and you can afford that position loss, because you're also going to probably trigger everyone behind you coming down the lane as well. I guess coming in that early, and I guess at what point did you sort of decide to commit to 3 stops tonight versus, say, maybe trying to play 2 stops? Or was there a point where you maybe had to think about that, or did you just say 3 at any point straight after that safety car stop to start?
Yeah, I thought about it a couple of times, doing a 2-stopper, and I was just like, I hate fuel saving races. Like, I really find them boring. I mean, some people like them and they enjoy that challenge, and it is a skill set for people, and I commend them to be able to do it. But me, I'm a racer. I just want to go out there and race. So I just thought, no, we're going to go for it. We're going to use as much fuel as we need to, and So I only thought about it a couple of times. I suppose if there was another couple of safety cars, I would have had to commit to trying to save it fuel and finish under fuel saving, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think other safety cars would have definitely probably made that 2-stop strategy much more viable. But at the same time, maybe you just come down, take another set of tyres for the heck of it. You were able to pull a great margin there in the middle of the race after getting away early on there. But that wraps up the longest night of the season here for the vets, and definitely feeling it here in the comms box too, I might add, even though we're not as old as you guys out on track. But heading to the Red Bull Ring next week for round number 8 of the season. High-speed circuit with a couple of big braking zones, going to be obviously potentially the hot spots, should be the hot spots on the circuit, if anything, to go by in the past. Is an indication with racing in this car and racing at the track in general. But 250k still on the board for that one. Any thoughts on what that might be like, and what to expect with these cars and the vets field next week?
It'll be competitive. I mean, Taylor, he started from the rear of grid tonight. He's super fast there. Lobby, really fast. Jeff Thomas, Funky Miller. There's so many guys that are really quick, and if you can get that little break on them, like we did earlier on tonight, in the first stint, and then after the safety car, it makes a big difference because it ends up evening out, and the guys are pretty rapid behind us. So Red Bull should be interesting. Like I say, that's another big race, 250k's. Yep, absolutely feeling it after 300k's. I'm really shot and feel for the New Zealanders. In Tally, Lobby, and a couple others, they would have been struggling. But yeah, looking forward to it. We'll turn up, do a little practice the night before, and go around and hopefully do our best, mate.
Well, you seem to be putting your best foot forward 9 times out of 10, if not more than that. Here's Scott this season. Before we let you go for the night, who do you want to thank for your result here tonight?
Yeah, look, say thanks to the guys, the drivers tonight. From my point of view, they were all pretty clean from where I was. I know there was a little bit of activity behind us early, but yeah, from where I was, they were really well behaved. So credit to them. Well done to P2, Jeff Thomas. Absolutely great race by him, and Funky Chris Miller. Well done in P3. Unfortunate to Lobby, he was really rapid. He was coming at me at the end there before the last pit stop, and something must have happened. But yeah, thanks to him. Thanks to the WKMB boys. They're really positive guys over there, help us out. So yeah, Wodonga Carts and Parts, Super Cheap Auto, Rebel Sports, BCF Macpac, Pool Guys Adelaide, Barella Cabinets, Bay 21 Coffee Beans, LGC Images, and don't forget to check out Dave 37 Racing on Facebook, and also Wall Boys Motorsport. You catch them on Facebook. Wall Boys actually stream, so check him out. And to you guys for the broadcast, thank you. Big stint for you guys in the booth tonight, but thanks for hanging in there. And to Race Control, thank you. Kept everything well under control tonight when there could have been a few hot heads out there, so well done, guys.
Were a few hot heads at one stage. So no, they had their work cut out for them. Appreciate it, Scotty. Thank you very much for the moment and the words, brother. Have a good night.
Cheers, mate.
And we're going to jump one step further down. It's going to be on to Mr. Jeff Thomas. Well, we talked to Scott Campbell just a moment ago, and he said, yeah, look, I'm not one for those fuel-saving races. These are starting to become your bread and butter. Anytime we find you in a hole and there's a weird fuel strategy that can work, you find it. Unlike Damien Cairns, who's just like, you know what, I'm going to stop an extra time for fun.
No, I knew it was on from that first safety car. You know, like I knew you could get home from there. It was just going to be hard to do the fuel saving mid-pack a little bit. And I wasn't really mid-pack, but I just couldn't clear Halil Caesar there for a bit. And when I did, you know, there was a bit of trouble at 1-2, and they got a run on me. And then next thing you know, I got tagged, and I was, you know, lost a few spots, but stuck to my plan. And you know, it was a bit dodgy there at the end when Darren was coming for me because I had no fuel, no tyres to race him. So it was just try and keep smooth and try and put lap time in. And fortunately, he made the mistake. So here we are.
I mean, it's never easy when you have to go such a long period of time on those tyres. We actually saw there was a couple other drivers who were doing really struggling on the rears tonight. Talk to us a little bit about the tyres and managing that throughout the run. That was not easy, particularly in a 300-kilometre race as well.
Yeah, I actually hadn't practiced going the 30 laps on the tyres, but I was pretty confident when I'd done sort of 15-lap runs that I could keep a pretty good pace going. So I was really conscious of looking after the tyres, and I just found if I got that fuel-saving rhythm, I was actually still able to put in a reasonably good lap time, and I was actually quite good on the tyres. So I wasn't really finding them a handful even at the end. You know, so trying to just stay in those 43s, you know, and yeah, look after those tyres the whole way.
Mate, big bank of points here tonight. We've only got a couple rounds left now in terms of the season, and heading to the Red Bull Ring next week out. A lot can happen at the Red Bull Ring. There's overtaking opportunities in just about every corner around there, as opposed to somewhere like this. What's the prospects when you head there? You feel more comfortable at the Red Bull Ring? Is it a track that you love? Is the fast flowing nature? We just talked about tyres. That'll be another talking point next week.
Yeah, I do. I like the Red Bull Ring. Haven't had the best of luck there. I really got to work on my, you know, trying to get passes done on the brakes there, because I probably get past too easily on the brakes, even though I might have a pretty good lap time. I tend to ease into the, you know, those heavy braking areas a bit too much. So, yeah, if I can get that sorted, a bit of luck, I think we'll go all right.
All right, mate. And finally, floor's yours to thank all the sponsors and people who make it possible, including Travis Hunt, who was there and thereabouts for a long period of the race. I'm sure you've got kind words to send his way.
Yeah, look, Trav's going all right. He's, you know, we work on strategy a bit, but he doesn't quite save the fuel like I do. I'm a right foot braker. He's a left foot braker. But we're working on that. But no, he's starting to drive really well, I think. So the result will come sooner or later. I keep saying it won't be long. He'll be beating me, no problem at all. So yeah, thanks to Trav. We've been, you know, doing a fair bit of practice together, and he helps me, I help him. And really, the main people I want to thank at the moment is, you know, Race Control and the whole admin for the series. I think, you know, they're always copping it from one angle or another, and I think they've been really good at just controlling that lately, and makes the whole series much more enjoyable.
Mate, pleasure chatting to you again, and we'll see you out there again next week for a 250-kilometer race. 50 kilometers shorter, surely it'll feel much easier. Yeah, we'll see that.
All right, thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Thanks, Daniel.
Pleasure, Jeff Thomas. And finally, Dan, last interview of the night is the 666 machine of Chris Miller.
Will be indeed. As I'm just going to queue up some more footage of Chris here before we wrap things up for the evening, and welcome Chris into the comms box, and had to work your way forward. Yeah, indeed, tonight. But had to work your way forward a little bit there, Chris, but also keeping your nose clean as the race went on certainly helped you there, and able to go the distance on the two-stop strategy tonight, like Jeff did. Just unfortunately came out a fair bit behind him there after that second and final stop for you, which seemed to really sort of just have you in a sort of a holding position for a little bit there.
Yeah, that's right. I look at the class of those boys. They'll manage to save and keep the good laps going. But I look at Blake Delaney and Michael Angus in the spotting for us and giving us a few numbers, mate. Without them, I certainly wouldn't have been able to get home or finish P3, that's for sure.
I mean, yeah, of course, racing is a team sport in many aspects, even on the sim. As you mentioned, having teammates who are able to give you those kind of a bit of advice and make sure you're hitting fuel numbers is important. But I mean, at one point you didn't have third place, so Darren Olwell able to get that back off you after his third and final stop of the race. But errors from him tonight trying to chase down yourself and Jeff Thomas, and meant that keeping it clean really ended up being what mattered most to you, on top of hitting your fuel number.
Yeah, absolutely. The boys said, "Oh, Lobby's pitted," and I think I looked, and there was 8 laps to go. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was about 8 seconds behind me, and I thought, and I actually thought for a second, I thought, "Geez, I might be all right here." And then I was just watching the time drop by 2 seconds every lap, and I'm like, "Oh God." And then when he got close, there's just no point fighting. I was just I didn't want to ruin his race or mine, so I was like, I just sort of lifted and let him go, and happy with fourth. And then I came through the chicane there and saw him in the wall, I think it was. I can't remember, but I'll take that for sure.
Indeed, I think it's also quite valuable to you, as it turns out, with the championship and all things considered. You seem to be quietly keeping yourself in the top 10, and you're actually now right up towards the pointy end of things, and bring home a podium as well to really consolidate that. With 3 rounds to go in the season, are you even thinking much about the championship, or are you really just making sure to enjoy each race as they come here on a Thursday night?
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't thinking about it. But look, I suppose, I think I've got about 12 months under my belt in the sim, so my goal is to keep learning and race clean. And if I end up getting up the pointy end, well, that's good. But it's just about racing clean, and I suppose having the guys around me know that I'll race clean, give them room, and not play up too much. But look, it'd be nice to dream. But look, at the end of the day, I'm just enjoying bets and running around and learning as I go. The team are helping me out heaps with that. So racing with some of those real quick guys is good. It's helping with, I suppose, with consistency. So
indeed, a P3 to your name goes along nicely with the P3 in the championship, or at least that's what it was when we came into tonight's standings. But I'll have to check them once we wrap up with you here. Speaking of which, who do you want to thank on top of the guys you've already mentioned from Fishy, but everyone there to sign off for yourself here tonight?
Absolutely. So obviously Michael White and the boss, and again Blake Delaney and Michael Inglis and all the Fishy boys tonight that raced. So West End Motor Group, Parramatta Peugeot Professional, Parramatta City Great Wall Haval, West End Mazda Parramatta, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, DC Shades, Relax Marine and Fishing, I think it is, Precision Sim Training, Infinity Designs, who else I'm missing? I don't know that. Battery Warehouse, Airlie Beach, and MJS Gaming. And if I've missed one, I'm sorry.
Well, no worries about that there. Chris Miller, 3rd place for him tonight here at Imola to round out our innings for this evening. Thank you very much there, Chris. And that'll just about do it for us tonight here, Scott. Before we go, though, I just want to bring up the championship because we are coming to 3 rounds left in the series, and we didn't get a chance to look at the points before we start. So I want to, first of all, bring everyone to how things were coming into tonight here. And in fact, I actually got it wrong. Chris Miller was coming into tonight 2nd place in the standings. So certainly doing a really nice job of things. Everything has to be said there. Here's how things are looking provisionally after tonight's race, as I'll now flick over the screen here to see if you can catching a Dan Hall jumping up from 5th place to 3rd. I can tell you that much, Scott, at this stage. Scott McCune actually holds on to P4 in the championship. Jeff Thomas also climbs spots. Chad Lewis gains places. Greg Sharps gains spots. Dean Favels gains spots. In fact, what looks to be, unfortunately, our biggest loser, Matt Vanderkran, outside the top 10. Unfortunately, with his retirement here this evening.
Yeah, that's a big one, and yeah, not the night that he was obviously looking for. It wasn't an easy night in and around where he was going, and then, you know, just a little mistake and fatigue. We saw a lot of fatigue tonight, Dan, which we haven't seen from these drivers all season. It was a big showing, and it's a track where you just don't get off a big moment to sort of breathe and think about things too much. So whether or not that played a factor, we'll never know. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure serving up another serving of the V8 Veterans Vindaloo. We'll be live back here, same time, same place next week for the 250 kilometers at the Red Bull Ring. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been the V8 Veterans, proudly brought to you by SimSpeed, and we'll see you all again next week for more racing action.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.